Chapter 1279 Intense Battle. 5 Feathers had a look of fear. She almost died with that one stick. She had spent so much effort creating that earth defense technique, spending countless yuan epochs fusing and communicating with the eternal ascension world. She has absorbed so many rare earth resources to increase the technique's potency. Yet, this one attack broke it. Although she understood this was not her main body, the technique could not be as powerful as before. Still, she felt afraid, thinking how easily he had broken through it. I must kill this bastard, 5 Feathers thought. They knew the destined one would be an extremely talented individual, but she and the others always believed they had plenty of time. After all, no matter how talented an individual is, they need time to grow and develop. However, after this brief confrontation, she realized they did not have as much time as possible. With a paragon's soul, it won't take him long to enter our realm, 5 Feathers figured. Even worse, he might even achieve Battle Taboo Realm and become a threat before making a cultivation breakthrough. We do not have enough time. I must kill him. Boom! 5 Feathers released a terrifying aura, suppressing all laws, matter, and causality in her surroundings. Tao, come to life, she uttered. Her grand Tao source manifested behind her, releasing an oppressing aura. Then, 5 clones appeared around 5 Feathers, each dressed in a color representing the 5 elements. Wang Wei looked at her with squinted eyes. Is this the power of a paragon? He thought. He could feel it. After 5 Feathers acted, she became the center of 5 elements Tao throughout the eternal ascension world. In other words, no one can use the 5-element law/Tao before her. Wang Wei tried to summon his small understanding of the 5-element Tao, and as expected, it didn't even work. If that were her real body, the suppression would have been more severe. And if she held the position for 5 elements, she could probably strip everyone else of their use of this Tao. After figuring these things out, Wang Wei resolved himself to get his hands on the fate position. Although he was confident that the holder would not be able to strip him of complete control, the latter should have the power to reduce his Tao's effect/strength. After 5 Feathers summoned her element clones, they surrounded her like planets orbiting a star. The clones raised their hands to release lights associated with the elements that floated around the phoenix. Then, she finally cast her spell, Elemental Apocalypse World. Wang Wei was on guard, and as soon as these clones appeared, he attacked to try to disrupt whatever they were doing. However, the Earth clone released an invisible energy shield that quickly blocked his attack. As Wang Wei prepared for a second attack, the spell was already finished, and his instinct warned him of great danger. Wang Wei's eyes peeped into the future and saw the source of the danger, and immediately took action to evade it. However, it seems 5 Feathers sensed his action of looking through time and released the spell earlier than it should have been. Everything around Wang Wei changed as he found himself in a dark environment. A domain-like technique? He swiftly analyzed. No, not just that. It's also a sealing technique. A bright, dark red light suddenly manifested in this dark world, making things visible. However, Wang Wei wished he was still in the dark. He realized he was floating above this terrifying magma, which immediately erupted into a column of flame. He reacted quickly enough to evade. That was close, Wang Wei thought. The magma was enough to melt the puppet and even his soul instantly. No, why didn't I sense such dangerous magma was so close to me? He quickly caught on the crux of the issue. The darkness around, it's not a simple lack of light, Wang Wei analyzed. She used the idea that fire is the source of light to control darkness Tao. And this lack of light doesn't just affect regular senses. How terrifying were Wang Wei's senses? With all his over-the-top and extravagant Taos, he had so many ways to detect things. But this darkness still worked on him. Wang Wei evaded a few more columns of magma, and the thing seemed to have been tired of him evading, so it condensed a colossal arm to catch or slap him into oblivion. Wang Wei calmly waved his staff in a circular motion around him to create a yin-yang fish diagram. Then, under his control, he separated the magma into its 2 fundamental elements, earth and fire. He sealed these different elements, thus successfully neutralizing this magma. Wang Wei had figured out his next step, but before he could react, he suddenly felt dizzy and almost fell from the air. What's this? Am I poisoned? Damn it, it's the ash. One of the deadliest things about any volcano eruption is the ash, and this one was so potent that it worked on the puppet's body and his soul. He immediately surrounded himself in a bubble of infinite spacetime layers. As such, anything that tried to get to him must destroy countless universes or spacetime continuum. Unfortunately, that's precisely what Five Feathers did. A sandstorm manifested out of nowhere, eradicating all the layers around Wang Wei at an alarming speed. He immediately noticed that this sandstorm was created by combining Earth Dao and the sharpness of Metal Dao. Wang Wei's first instinct was to use the same strategy, divide them into their basic elemental counterparts and seal them separately. However, Five Feathers was not stupid, so the same method would not work twice. When he mobilized his Yin-Yang Dao, Wang Wei realized it did not work. He immediately understood the reason. Five Feathers must have used the changes between water and fire element to control Yin-Yang Dao, and when a paragon is using a Dao, how dare he, a small Empyrean, try to use it as well. Of course, such a method has limitations. For example, even if Five Feathers tried to restrict Wang Wei's Fate Dao or many of the others, it wouldn't work since they are not her expertise. Since Yin-Yang Dao won't work, let's try something else, Wang Wei thought. He smashed the sandstorm with his staff, and as soon as they came into contact, he changed the fate/destiny of this sandstorm so that they had never correctly fused. With his high battle experience, Wang Wei made the correct choice. However, Five Feathers anticipated his high battle IQ compared to hers and focused on one thing she had over him: she could react faster than him. No matter how powerful Wang Wei was, it did not change the fact he was using foreign means of achieving paragon tier strength. Five Feathers was a full-fledged paragon, while Wang Wei's was incomplete. He could use his experience and mind to think countless steps ahead of her, but he could not react as fast as her. His deductions are what made him close to her reaction time. All of this is to say that as soon as he dealt with the sandstorm, this apocalypse world changed. A swamp was starting to fill this sealed world at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, it started raining, but not water, but these terrifying metallic liquids heavier than a multiverse. Wang Wei calmly dodged the liquid metals, but each drop that fell on the swamp drastically accelerated the speed at which it rose. Time is running out, and my intuition is telling me my previous methods of dealing with these attacks won't work, Wang Wei thought, his mind working on overdrive. Swamp, a combination of earth, water, and wood elements. Liquid metal, a combination of water and metal Dao. No, given the terrifying weight, it probably also contains earth Dao. I see. Wang Wei knew what to do. He summoned his Order Disorder Dao. Order, all 5 elements Dao's aspects, characteristics, and functions will be rendered useless. Usually, Wang Wei would only need such a order to deal with people who cultivated the 5-element Dao. However, he was dealing with a being higher on the hierarchy scale than himself. So, such a blatant rewrite of the rules will not work unless he's willing to severely restrict it or pay a price. Disorder, willpower backlash. Boom. A terrifying power that embodies order, chaos, and all the fundamental rules of heaven and earth descended into this world and rapidly dissipated it. 5 Feathers appeared in the Eternal Ascension world with an incredulous look. Meanwhile, Wang Wei's face was pale. He felt a massive headache so painful that he grunted. If not for his willpower, he would have instantly passed out. The pain was brief, but that made it even worse as it seemed to condense much suffering in a short period. Wang Wei wiped the blood from his nose. I guess I should be happy since my willpower was tempered by a decent amount. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1280 Heaven and Earth Celebrate, 5 Elements Divine Eyes. The 5 elements are the foundation of all things. Thus, they revealed the truth of the universe. 5 Feathers created this detecting ability with this concept. However, since it was based on the 5 elements, the technique did not work as she anticipated. Regardless, she noticed something. After trying to use her technique, there seems to be additional pressure on Wang Wei's soul/spirit. I see. The information said he cultivated order disorder Tao, so that's how he did it. However, it seems he had to use a severe price to remove all abilities regarding the 5 elements, 5 feathers analyzed. In that case, I should continue to use my ability to put pressure on him until he cannot hold on anymore. In the meantime, I need to find another means of fighting. Boom! Wang Wei's staff attacked 5 feathers with another critical hit. This attack was not as severe as the first one, meaning it required less time to calculate and place less pressure on her already weakened mind. However, 5 feathers casually waved her hand to create countless universes to serve as shields. With her grand mist will, this was a piece of cake. Although she could not summon creation lives from her main body, she could still use the grand mist chi. Wang Wei's attack easily crushed these universes, but they delayed enough time for 5 feathers to evade. I could use my sub-daos, but they are only in the Empyrean realm, 5 feathers thought. She was already struggling with her own Dao, so these sub-daos would be even more useless. Even if she used her soul to boost them to Paragon tier, they would not be as effective. In that case, this is the only way to continue this fight, 5 feathers thought while wishing she had brought any Paragon artifact. Even without her proving Dao artifact, she could forcefully break that Order Dao spell. While evading these attacks, she raised her hand, and a phantom of a world manifested behind her. Then, with a downward motion, a black cloud condensed above the sky before releasing a pool of thunder on her opponent. Wang Wei's lips twitched when he saw that phantom. He had long known that fighting paragons was something else. These people simply had too many means, making battles at that level extremely complex. One of these many means was chi/energy. A paragon's soul is so powerful, so it's not hard to imagine how much energy from the source chi space they could control. Most paragons will refine a unique mark they leave in the source chi space, making it easier to forcefully draw energy from that place and use it. There are even techniques that imitate the immortal mansion of immortal kings, allowing the paragons to store a scary amount of energy to use for a later date. Wang Wei has a paragon soul, so he also prepared to refine his source chi mark before confronting the parasites. However, he was forced into this mess before he was completely prepared. He calmed down while thinking of a plan. He smashed the lightning coming his way, but the dispersed powers suddenly turned into sharp blades, to his slight surprise. Wang Wei reacted swiftly, but 2 of the blades pierced his shoulder and tight right. He responded in time to use his true will to protect his soul. She must have spent some time studying immortal spells, Wang Wei analyzed. Such expert use of chi proved 5 feathers' accomplishment. However, this should not be surprising since she had most of the world's resources at her disposal. Considering this fact, her achievements would be less impressive since someone like himself could have done more. Wang Wei sighed as he dealt with the constant bombardment of these chi spells. This fight further proved to him that the older a paragon, the harder they are to deal with. For example, Wu Hong and Qiyuan should have their own source chi mark and energy reserve. But, given how far apart they've achieved the realm of Paragon, could anyone fathom how much more energy Qiyuan has in reserve? Maybe Wu Hong has found a way to fill that gap, but that method would never be simple. Then, there is the possibility that Qiyuan also has unique methods for amassing chi. These old-timers do not give people the opportunity to rise, Wang Wei complained before focusing on this fight, thinking about how to deal with the situation. My chi flower has a high affinity with the source chi space, so I could use it to gather energy quickly. Wang Wei had already planned for his ability to be the way he makes up the gap with these old cultivators, especially after his ability evolves once he becomes a paragon. With the flower as a medium and my soul, I won't lose much to this projection regarding chi control. I can even create the chi spell versions of my Dao techniques and superimpose their strength. Such a method is one way that top paragons increase their battle strength, which essentially requires them to incorporate the immortal path into the emperor path. This ability is one of the main reasons the immortal path had declined entirely. Chi was supposed to be their thing, but Paragon took it and did it better than them. Wang Wei internally shook his head. He did not want to do that. He realized something: continuing fighting would reveal his strength and trump cards. The final result will be to destroy one of the parasitous projections. Of course, this will affect Five Feathers' main body, but such an injury is insignificant. With all the resources she had at her disposal, it won't take long to recover. If I want to reveal a trump card, it must be for a genuine injury. He immediately brewed a plan for how to end this fight. Before coming, he had a plan that involved a sneak attack with the other time clone, but he changed his mind. Then, Wang Wei became passive in the fight. He kept evading and defending. Additionally, his face becomes paler and paler as time passes. At some point, Wang Wei summoned his time clone. The thing did sneak attack Five Feathers, but only her shoulder was broken before she repelled the clone. Five Feathers had some reservations after seeing another clone with a Paragon artifact. However, she realized her worries were for nothing. With Wang Wei's current situation, controlling a second Paragon artifact would only put more pressure on his mind. So, she continued using her 5-element Dao to force the order spell backlash. Boom! Five Feathers was about to use a terrifying light spell to end the struggle of these two vermin. A sudden change occurred between heaven and earth, and a vision spread to every corner of the Eternal Ascension world. There were golden lotuses, sounds of the Tao, sacred beasts flying, sages reciting the sutra, immortals showing their loftiness, and even emperors showing their approval. Five Feathers' face became ugly. Any sentient being who saw this vision instantly knew why it was happening. Wang Wei suddenly laughed. Although his voice was slightly weak, Five Feathers easily heard it. Paragons are inherently noble creatures since they are the embodiment of the Tao. The death of even the weakest of them will make heaven and earth mourn for days. However, you people have done so much that once you die, heaven and earth celebrate instead. Five Feathers gritted her teeth and clenched her hand. That vision was a reminder of her future. Once she dies, heaven and earth will not mourn her, they will celebrate instead. Countless people will curse her existence and even wish to dance on her grave. Her infamy will be rewritten in the annals of history. What's with that reaction? Wang Wei chuckled. Shouldn't you have expected this to be your outcome? Don't tell me you expected some kind of dignity upon your death after everything you've done? Stop talking all this nonsense, Five Feathers sneered. I only need not to die. Not dying? Wang Wei looked at her incredulously. Don't you understand that your fate has long been sealed? Had you spent all these years cultivating and raising your strength to the pinnacle of the Paragon realm, you might have a chance at surviving by running away. But now? Wang Wei shook his head. Even if I didn't have the destiny to eliminate all of you, once these paragons from Limbo return, you wouldn't survive. And even if they never return, do you think any of those two sons will keep you guys alive once you're no longer helpful? You don't know what you're talking about, Five Feathers said with a terrifying killing intent. Is that so? Wang Wei smiled. However, it was not the charming kind, but the kind that made people wish they could beat him up. Maitreya already finds you guys useless and doesn't need you anymore, so she'll definitely eliminate you once she has the chance. Supreme Unity is cold and indifferent, meaning it's only a matter of time before he sacrifices you for his gain. So, as I said, your fate was sealed the moment you accepted their offers to become this world's ruler. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1281 Finally Move? What's going on? Despite Wang Wei's careless attitude and his act of riling up Five Feathers, his mind was somewhere else. My feeling is not wrong. Something significant is about to happen in the Heavenly Beauty Palace, and it seems to be an opportunity one should not miss. After figuring this out, Wang Wei knew he had to end this fight as swiftly as possible. Blood Dragon was already dead, meaning it was time to plunder that dragon's territory. Although he's blocked the people from the palace, other bold people who saw the heaven and earth vision will also have the same idea. In that case, let's have the body find out what's so important in that palace while I use the puppet for the plunder, Wang Wei finalized. Bastards, have you said enough? 5 Feathers roared. She did not need anyone to remind her of her ultimate fate. She had plenty of advisors who did the same, and she killed all of them already. Divine Judgment. 5 Feathers used much of the chi she had reserved to cast a light spell with a wide area effect. The sky turned bright as trillions of sword lights manifested. They descended toward Wang Wei and the time clone with the utmost prejudices. To these lights, these two are the greatest sinners between heaven and earth and must be destroyed or purified. Wang Wei's face became paler as he saw this attack. He immediately acted in tandem with the clone, setting up a formation with their staff artifact. The two made a circular motion above their heads with their staffs, generating a shield that covered them 360 degrees. The light swords purified everything in their path. The laws of heaven and earth stood no chance against them, let alone things like space-time or any sentient life in the surroundings. Crack. A cracking sound echoed between heaven and earth, and it originated from Wang Wei's shield. He gritted his teeth and increased the resonance between the two staffs, allowing him and the clone to repair the crack and raise their defenses. However, soul blood kept dropping from his nose, which was an indication of his current state. 5 Feathers sneered after seeing this and used another spell. An incalculable amount of swords suddenly grew from the ground. Damn it, Wang Wei cursed. With these swords, he now had to defend himself from the sky and the earth. Wang Wei used his soul to mobilize the energy between heaven and earth to supplement himself. His actions created a vacuum of energy in the surrounding billion light years. Such an act should have disrupted the cultivation of countless people. Sadly, there was no longer anyone around. Keep struggling, you worm, 5 Feathers sneered before using one of her most powerful 5 elements Dao. The backlash immediately caused Wang Wei's shield to be destroyed. He gritted his teeth and did not give up. He worked with the clone to block these attacks with only their staff. They were initially the same, making them perfectly in sync. Additionally, Wang Wei used his ancestors' evading technique, allowing him to survive long enough. However, after a few seconds, the clone could no longer hold and was dispersed. Meanwhile, Wang Wei had a few light and regular swords stuck on his body. Wang Wei looked at 5 Feathers with gritted teeth while evading. Then, a look of cruelty flashed in his eyes. Time-space Big Bang. With his spacetime Dao, he condensed infinite spacetime energy into a single point before detonating it. The explosion erased everything between heaven and earth, turning this battlefield into an area full of chaos and temporal anomalies. Wang Wei took this opportunity to run away. "You pesky ant, did you think you could escape?" said a voice full of derisions and mockery. Then, before Wang Wei could run far, a cage of blue energy trapped him. Wang Wei's aura was at its weakest, and now he was trapped. However, the cruelty in his eyes did not dissipate for a second. When 5 Feathers saw him, she knew he was not a weak beast at the end of its struggle and was about to surrender or plead for his life. No, this was a trapped beast about to unleash its savagery to survive, no matter the cost. 5 Feathers no longer hesitated. In this situation, she knew the best move to end this bastard: a soul attack. A phoenix entered Wang Wei's sea of consciousness, proudly looking down at his weak soul. "Damn you, woman," he yelled. He was so weak that the defense around his sea of consciousness was broken so easily. "Die, you annoying pest," the phoenix said before spewing out terrifying soul flames. Wang Wei reacted swiftly by summoning a pagoda, which was a soul defense technique. However, the phoenix was relentless in her attack, forcing Wang Wei to move deeper into his sea of consciousness as a form of defense. However, 5 Feathers could tell he was weakened at an alarming speed. Soul Requiem. 5 Feathers no longer hesitated before using her most potent soul attack. The phoenix released the terrifying flames before its feathers became sharp blades and attacked. Lastly, the phoenix released a sonic attack. Wang Wei's face turned ugly as he watched his pagoda explode. However, he reacted in time by condensing his true will into a protective shield around. Finally, I can eliminate this pest and continue our era by at least 100,000 yuan epochs, 5 Feathers thought excitedly. According to the rules of heaven and earth, it will take some time before another son of Era or destined one is chosen again. And even when it is, she knew there was no way for that person to be as talented as Wang Wei. If we can eliminate the next one too. She was excited thinking about this possibility. However, her excitement halted when she saw a smirk on the corner of Wang Wei's mouth. His following words sent chills down the phoenix's spine. "Found you," Wang Wei chuckled. His weak soul suddenly received a terrifying amount of energy, revitalizing it and making it more potent. Then, the soul seemed to have become a supreme swordsman capable of cutting everything in its path. Absolute soul cut, a terrifying sword flash rushed out of Wang Wei's sea of consciousness. The potency of this attack made the phoenix's face pale, but something worse happened. The attack was not directed at the projection, its target was the main body. Five Feathers was not stupid. She quickly figured out what had happened. Wang Wei lured her into his sea of consciousness by faking weakness, and while she was trying to kill him as soon as possible, he was creating a causality link to her main body. Arg! Wang Wei heard a cry of agony from the karma link, and he recognized that voice. Such a sound was music to his eyes, bringing out some of his masochist tendencies. He smiled before gazing at the phoenix. Damn, this is not over, Five Feathers thought. Of course, it's not over, Wang Wei said, seemingly capable of reading her mind. Five Feathers felt another chill down her spine and swiftly dissipated the phoenix. However, when her main focus returned to her body, it was already too late. A terrifying chain of fate bound the projection. The main Bodis injury weakened it and should have dissipated, but the chains did not allow this to happen. The thing was so overbearing that it forcefully overrode her desires and even some of the rules of heaven and earth. What are you going to do? Five Feathers asked. Make you pay, of course, Wang Wei replied. That soul injury is nothing to you. With your resources, you'll probably recuperate in less than 5,000 yuan epochs. I can't have that, can I? Wang Wei pointed at her, and suddenly, a terrifying white dragon that covered a tenth of the Eternal Ascension world manifested. No, you bastard, don't do this, Five Feathers yelled. She knew the consequences if something happened to that Chi-Luck dragon. You've enjoyed the blessing of this world's luck for far too long, Wang Wei sneered. The spear of destiny materialized in his hands, and without hesitation, he threw it. The dragon sensed danger and reacted. Its mighty paw blocked the spear, leaving a gushing wound. However, it did stop it from doing more damage. With its current state, it will take a while before destroying the dragon, Wang Wei murmured. In that case, let's boost it. The destiny of all the elite attending the party might not be enough, but what about more people? Wang Wei summoned a projection of the River of Fate to summon the destiny of countless cultivators forcefully. Why is there so little resentment? Wang Wei thought. Using the resentment between heaven and earth was the best way to reduce the resistance to taking, no, borrowing, these people's destiny. However, he discovered that while the people had plenty of personal resentment, it did not form much energy/power between heaven and earth. I should investigate this. Wang Wei had to use the laborious method of gathering these destinies. However, with his current strength, he could cover a fairly decent percentage of Eternal Ascension world. Boom! After being boosted, the spear pierced through the dragon's claw before heading directly through its head. The Chi-Luck dragon roared in agony, but the spear continued attacking until the dragon was about to disperse. However, another change occurred between heaven and earth. A purple chi rushed from another territory and stabilized the dragon, preventing it from collapsing. Taoism's rising dragon purple chi. Did Supreme Unity finally move? Wang Wei frowned. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1282 Transcendent Technique Wang Wei observed with a frown. However, after waiting for a few seconds, nothing else happened. That's it? He thought. Did he only act to save her luck? He doesn't want to die. But why didn't he save Blood Dragon? Myriad thoughts flashed in his mind, analyzing the situation. It could be he acted because Blood Dragon just died. Without strong luck to support, that woman won't last long. There is also the possibility there is something special about her among the other parasites, so Supreme Unity wants her to stay alive. This analysis made sense, but he could not think of anything that made Five Feathers special. Her phoenix race was rare, but not to the point of being valued by a half-step Transcendent. So, unless I'm missing something, he might have just acted to prevent her eventual death since these people are still useful, Wang Wei analyzed. However, I should still research more about Five Feathers in case she is indeed special, but I don't know. Wang Wei squinted. It did not matter that Five Feathers' luck had not completely collapsed. With his mastery of luck Dao, such a weak Qi luck dragon is not different than a collapsed one. Once he deals with her, he'll use it to his advantage. He turned around, about to leave. It was time for him to plunder. However, Wang Wei noticed the destruction around him. They had destroyed more than half of the ubiquitous hot spring world. Everything was in a state of void and chaos. Wang Wei saw the wail of the trillions of people, both mortals and cultivators, who died in the aftermath of their battles. He saw the remnant of Dao Path's cultivators' inner world. He noticed the scattered immortal Qi or immortal path cultivators. He even detected the residual Dao rhyme of Emperor Path cultivators, who were the only ones who survived this catastrophe since they could revive themselves. Wang Wei shook his head. He tried to bring Five Feathers to a desolate place far away from the heavenly beauty palace and away from life. Sadly, the destructing nature of paragons was too great. It's a miracle the entire world was not destroyed. Of course, Wang Wei knew it would have been best to fight in the Nine-Heaven Desolate Realm, which was the Eternal Ascension world's version of the void battlefield created especially for paragons. However, he does not think he can convince Five Feathers to follow him, nor does he have the strength to force her there. He guessed if he asked her to fight there, that cruel woman might think he cared about ordinary people's lives and cause even more destruction. It's already healing? Wang Wei noticed that the time anomalies created by techniques and the chaotic void were being repaired at an alarming speed. Additionally, the special laws of the ubiquitous hot spring world that allowed it to give birth to unique hot springs were also being repaired at an alarming rate. It seems this hot spring world is a protected area, Wang Wei thought as a sudden realization dawned on him. There are many unique spaces in the Eternal Ascension world, but with how destructive cultivators are, it's odd how these areas survived since the dawn of time. The answer is they are protected areas, meaning Heavenly Tao will pay special attention to them and even repair them after destruction. That also explained why the entire thing was not destroyed, Wang Wei thought. Their battle intensity was enough to destroy this area, but only half suffered. As a protected area, it's apparent that the ubiquitous hot spring area received special treatment from Heavenly Tao, allowing it to suppress the effect of any world-destroying battles. Did Sun Junyao know about this, and that's why she chose this place for her banquet? Wang Wei believed she did, as the location of any plan is a significant part. She must have prepared in case Blood Dragon escaped or someone came to rescue him. Her plan was perfect until the execution. She could not control herself and started acting like a villain by telling her plan, motive, and background, which in turn delayed until someone came to save Blood Dragon, Wang Wei analyzed while shaking his head. Her intelligence is probably close to or on par with a Dao overlord. However, she lacked our absolute over our emotions and, more importantly, our flaws. After observing Sun Junyao briefly, he could tell her mental state was flawed. The worst part is that she knows it but does not know how not to reveal it to others or prevent others from using it against her. That alone disqualified her as a Dao overlord, even a Dao lord. Wang Wei shook his head and no longer focused on Sun Junyao. He quickly calculated whether he could receive some merit if he accelerated the recovery of this world, and the answer was negative since he was the one who contributed to its destruction. So, he left, returning to the Heavenly Beauty Palace. Not bad, Wu Hong said, nodding in satisfaction. I'll give you 8 of 10 for a score. Why not a perfect score? Wang Wei asked. Your opponent was so weak, but you took so long, so that's -1. Lastly, you're obviously not prepared enough for battles at the Paragon level. Of course, I'm not ready, Wang Wei rolled his eyes. He had no plan to fight these parasites now, but this woman made him do it. Wu Hong's actions reminded him of parents who pushed their children into a river so they could learn how to swim in a moment of life and death. Life is full of ups and downs, so we can never be prepared for everything. I'm sure you know this, Wu Hong replied, not taking responsibility for her actions whatsoever. Wang Wei stared at her before sighing. Do you have any spirit healing pill? That backlash was truly nasty. Treating me like a bank, aren't we? Wu Hong stared at him before summoning a green pill. Isn't your love language gift-giving? I'm just helping you express yourself, Wang Wei replied with a smirk as he held the pill. He recognized it as a Supreme Chaos pill, not a Paragon pill. However, this pill could have been refined by a Paragon since, unlike the lower dimension, there are countless methods of refining innate pills in the Eternal Ascension world. Once again, you're getting too comfortable, aren't you? No, I just refuse to deny the natural sparks between us, Wang Wei replied. I'm not denying anything, Wu Hong replied calmly. I just choose rational thinking to prevent trouble down the line. That's fair, Wang Wei nodded. He did not swallow the pill but placed it on his forehead. The pill entered his sea of consciousness and immediately started releasing these blue lights that enveloped everywhere, including his soul and spirit. That's better, Wang Wei groaned softly. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be somewhere, plundering? I sense a unique opportunity in this place, so I return. Oh. Wu Hong scanned the heavenly beauty palace. Is that it? She showed a projection of a room, and Wang Wei squinted. He saw old man Tianji sitting cross-legged and the river of fate materializing above his head, releasing an unknown power into his body. Then, something terrifying occurred. Old man Tianji's cultivation was rapidly increasing. In just a few seconds, his Empyrean soul turned into a Paragon soul, and after a few more seconds, his soul power quantity reached the Paragon level. However, this was not even the end. His cultivation suddenly broke the bottleneck and entered 90% Grand Dao Source, but that was not the end. It kept increasing to 91%, 92%. Wait, why does it feel like some of this power belongs to me? Wang Wei did not doubt his intuition and immediately summoned his Bashian turtle shell to use as a medium to take the power that belonged to him. However, he frowned as he realized power became significantly diluted once it reached him. The rest of the power seems to belong to Sun Junyao, Wu Hong commented, and with a wave of her finger, she also took it. Old man Tianji opened his eyes and sighed. With that power, he could have reached 94%, but since these people acted, he only reached the peak of 92%. However, he was okay with it as he had anticipated. Although he hoped it would not happen, but knew the chances were low given Wang Wei's terrifying affinity with Fate Dao. I know this power, Wang Wei commented. It's the same when I changed the fate of the lower dimension and used it to boost my cultivation. Except, this one is 1,000,000,000 times more potent. That's a transcendent technique, Wu Hong said with a serious face. By participating in world-changing events and altering the fate of someone or an entire world, he can condense this pure fate power with all kinds of effects. After participating in an event that killed a paragon that controlled 1/10 of a world's luck and injuring another, his cultivation can reach such a terrifying level in an instant. The room was instantly quiet. Wu Hong and Wang Wei knew how terrifying such a technique was. With the strength, how easy was it to influence an entire world? How about killing Paragon? With such a technique, it's easy to imagine how terrifying the force behind it is. The number of Paragons must be astronomical. Are those two so powerful? Wang Wei asked. No, Wu Hong replied with absolute certainty. This event has proven to me there is a vast difference in strength between people in their realm. The difference might be larger than a peak boundless paragon and immortal. We made the right choice not to settle for these incomplete methods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1283 Do not speak his name in vain. Wang Wei nodded. Everything is connected, and in the path of cultivation, the foundation is fundamental. Most cultivators believe that the Tao foundation stopped mattering after the Emperor realm. However, that is far from the truth. According to Wang Wei's calculation, the minimum requirement for someone to become a paragon is a failed 9-extremity foundation. Without it, the chances of surviving the immeasurable tribulation have drastically decreased. Furthermore, Wu Hong told him that the Tao foundation would become extremely important in the half-step transcendent realm. It's not just the Tao foundation, but the cultivator's achievements and so on will also play a role in their strength. With today's events, he also understood that how a cultivator achieves transcendence will affect their strength and maybe even whether they can achieve a higher level. I always thought the cardinals achieved their strength by making a deal with Grand Tao to work for the latter with their eventual freedom. Maybe, they also cannot reach higher levels due to how they achieved their strength, Wang Wei thought. He was not sure about this analysis, but if it's true, the fate cardinal position is a pit, and under no circumstance should I accept it, Wang Wei thought. Previously, he might have considered accepting the position if everything else fails. After all, no matter what, it's a way of making high strides toward the path of transcendence. As a last resort, Wang Wei would not mind spending countless epochs serving as the Fate Cardinal before regaining his freedom and pursuing higher levels. However, if this position cut his path forward, he would rather die than take it. By the way, did you memorize all the Tao rhymes of this technique? Wang Wei asked. I've only registered about 65% of it. I got everything, Wu Hong nodded. A transcendent technique was precious to even someone in their realm. Although it was not a path to achieve transcendent but an application of transcendent strength, its worth is beyond words, especially for her to complete her 3,800 Tao seals. What do you want to do with him? She asked. Can we do anything? Believe it or not, we will all die if we touch him, Wang Wei replied calmly. Oh, did you think of something? Wu Hong asked. It's not hard to figure out if you think hard enough. What do people of that level pursue? Higher levels, Wu Hong replied. Yes, and no matter how many paragons they've cultivated, it's meaningless to them. Wu Hong squinted as she immediately realized what he meant. They all have his name and are essentially clones of him. Exactly, and if he can cultivate them to the half-step transcendent realm, he could use them to borrow strength or even fuse with them to achieve higher realms, Wang Wei sighed. He figured it out so quickly because that's precisely what he would have done. That old man Tianji must have been planning this for heaven knows how long. Who knows how many half-step transcendents he must have cultivated and swallowed. I'm sure this technique has some limits, but even so, I reckon he must have walked very far on the transcendent path. Boom! The world trembled slightly, and everything stopped, all cultivators, matter, energy, and even the rules of heaven and earth. Only 2 people were not affected, Wang Wei and Wu Hong. Then, a pair of eyes appeared above the sky, glancing at them. 2 little ants figured out my plan. A deep voice echoed between heaven and earth. Wu Hong and Wang Wei immediately felt a few running deep through their souls. This was not because of their character or flaw in their mind, but the instinct reaction of a creature meeting a higher life form. However, even as lower life forms, these 2 were extraordinary. They remained calm, controlled their body's natural instincts, and calmly looked at that pair of eyes. Interesting, said the voice before looking in the distance. 2 people who were fighting were now looking at him. One of them was indifferent, but the latter sent a warning. However, he did not care. Although they were in the same realm, these 2 were too weak, so the eyes focused on the ants. I command you to be able to keep calm in the situation, said the pair of eyes. However, you know too much. A colossal hand descended from the heavens toward these 2. He did not want information about his plan to get out. Although a few people on his level suspected his plan, no one knew for sure. Additionally, he could tell these 2 were highly talented, with the potential to reach his level, especially that woman. After seeing her, he felt a tiny threat. Although it was nothing to him, what cultivation were they? One was a towering mountain, and the other was an ant, yet the ant could threaten the mountain. Just the fact she was a threat proved her potential. If any of these two reached his level, they could use this information to scheme against him. Old man Tianji did not want to leave such a flaw and possible threat behind. As the hand descended, Wang Wei and Wu Hong were powerless. Their bodies could not move, and their minds worked at turtle-like speed. Wu Hong could not even activate the seals in her sea of consciousness, and she panicked a little. She had so much hope and potential, so how could she die here? Meanwhile, Wang Wei was calm, so calm that it could be described as carefree. This was not the first time he had met those transcendent big bosses, and he could predict what would happen next. And, as expected, the hand stopped midway. Old man Tianji had to stop as he felt two terrifying killing intent locking him. It was so intense that a chill ran from his soul, through his spine, and down into his feet. He quickly scanned the source and discovered they originated from the upper stream of the river of time. He tried to find who it was but to no avail, but he knew that if he continued his actions, even one of those killing intent was enough to eliminate him. So, that's how it is, he thought, secretly sighing. He understood what was happening and quickly thought through time. Senior, forgive my ignorance. Scram, said a beautiful, almost angelic voice. It was too bad it was extremely cold, so old man Tianji did not dare enjoy it. Thank you for your generosity, he swiftly said. He took one last glance at the eternal ascension world. How stupid I was. I know this world was a source of trouble, but I acted so brazenly. He had heard of the all-seeing temple's prophecy and had prepared for the upcoming chaos. However, old man Tianji was convinced he could survive this forthcoming catastrophe. Better yet, he might take this opportunity to reach new heights. However, after today's events, he realized he was too confident. If he's not prepared, even someone like himself might fall into the upcoming disaster. No, my preparations are not nearly enough, old man Tianji thought. He decided to accelerate the speed of his actions. Before that, he must summon all the people who bore his name. So, he focused on the one in the Heavenly Beauty Palace and the one in the lower dimension. He has a karmic relationship with that boy, I mean that senior. Maybe he will become a more valuable pawn by staying here. After pondering it briefly, he took the one in the palace and left the one in the lower dimension. Old man Tianji disappeared, and the time of the world started to flow again. No one noticed what had happened beside four people. Quite anticlimactic, isn't it? Wang Wei sighed. Was that? Wu Hong asked, thinking of the unknown origin of that clone that complicated her love life. Yeah. Wu Hong sighed. The last time she felt this powerless was during the ultimate taboo. Thinking about how she had to experience such a terrible feeling again because of that bastard, she became angry. Why are you always causing trouble? From what I know, you're not born with the fate of a disaster star. Why are you blaming me? Isn't this your fault? If you so blatantly say his name, do you think he would have noticed little ants like us? Wang Wei smiled wryly as she was correct. He was so used to using Maitreya and Supreme Unity names like it was nothing that he had forgotten a fundamental truth. Do not say the name of higher beings in vain. Even great emperors can sense someone using their name or title, let alone these transcendent species. That's indeed my fault, and I apologize, Wang Wei said, and Wu Hong snorted coldly. I know it's a terrible feeling realizing how weak and insignificant we are, Wang Wei continued. However, isn't this the best motivation for us? One day, we will stand at their level and even surpass it. They had this confidence since there were many signs that they'd succeeded already. Although it was not 100% guaranteed, this fact was enough to give them more confidence than 99% of all sentient beings. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1284 Plunder. Wait, Wang Wei said. Were you scared? He asked, looking directly into her eyes. Wu Hong was calm, but he knew her better than he knew the back of his hands, so he saw the signs. By the blessing of the Tao, Wang Wei said in shock before laughing out loud. The proud and mighty Empress Wu has such a moment of weakness. This is the greatest day of my life. I don't know what kind of delusion your mind has conjured, but don't involve me, Wu Hong replied calmly. Sadly, Wang Wei ignored her words. This moment will feed my existence for trillions of yuan epochs, no, for eternity, Wang Wei continued. I will tell everyone, especially our kids. I can picture it now. When I tell them of the one time I saw their scary mother trembling in fear. Yes, I can see it. Their tiny eyes became wide in shock. Then, they'll look at me in disbelief, wondering whether the emotion known as fear could even be associated with their mother in the slightest. By the grace of the ancestors, this is truly the greatest moment of my life. Wang Wei's joy was palpable, almost illuminating the private room. Meanwhile, Wu Hong was gloomy. If you dare utter a word, the things they'll do to you could no longer be described as unspeakable, she warned. It doesn't matter, Wang Wei replied, his face showing a hint of unparalleled confidence. No matter what trials and tribulations you put me through, no matter what darkness, the fact that you were once scared is enough for me to survive anything. You. Wang Wei grinned in response. Then, a cunning light flashed in Wu Hong's eyes. Her demeanor suddenly changed as she became sad and even docile. Such a temperament immediately made any man wish they could protect her. She materialized a tissue and started crying. How can you be so cruel? This is the first time I've shown such a vulnerable side to you, but now, you're weaponizing it against me and even our future children. How can you do such a thing? Wang Wei stood before her in shock. In his wildest dream, he never thought that would be her reaction. The rudeness of the situation and Wu Hong's current state instantly made him want to reach over and reassure her that he was just joking. Luckily, he immediately woke up and realized what was happening. Well played, he praised in his mind. Unfortunately, she had met her match. Okay, your little act won't work on me. Your future self sent a clone in the past to prevent me from having a harem. Our relationship was destined to have some toxicity. Accept this loss and move on. You bastard. Wu Hong said, returning to her calm and authoritative self. This is not over, she declared after putting the tissue away. I'm sure it's not, Wang Wei smiled. They have an eternity to spend together, so it's great for their relationship to have its uniqueness. Otherwise, they will face the same fate as most Dao partners, getting bored of each other. By the way, why were you scared? Didn't you already guess about our future selves? Of course I have, Wu Hong replied. But I'm not as crazy as you to put so much faith in my so-called future self. Have you never wondered whether these people protected us as our future selves? What if they are someone else pretending to be? And even if they are ourselves, who knows how much we've changed? At their levels, the past might not matter much to them. Wu Hong sighed. The entire situation seems ridiculous and unnecessarily complicated to me. Wang Wei nodded. Of course, he's thought of all these questions and possibilities. All I can say is firstly, we cannot interfere in these battles yet, so we have no choice but to believe. Secondly, there are no signs of a problem so far, so all I can do is keep calm, retain that level of faith, and keep my guard up if I detect or deduce some kind of anomaly. Wu Hong looked in the distance. In this overtly complex situation, his mindset was the best choice. It seems I must enter the dark truth as soon as possible. She realized that since the ultimate taboo, she might have become conservative in her actions. Otherwise, after so many years, as long as she took the risk and left the eternal ascension world, there are plenty of ways to heal her injuries and return to peak strength. Don't you have plundering to do? Wu Hong said, looking at him. Damn it. Wang Wei almost forgot. Wait. Here. Wu Hong handed him the power of fate she took from old man Tianji. This is Sun Zhenyo's share. Give it to her. Wang Wei nodded before teleporting away. Wu Hong calmly watched him leave, and a few seconds later, she smiled. She was correct in thinking he could bring some colors to her life. Let's continue observing before making any final decisions. Although she had a favorable view of him, this was not something she could decide after only 2 meetings. Anyway, they had eternity before them, so there was no need to rush. Wang Wei teleported to the domineering dragon realm. He scoffed at the name as he knew the blood dragon changed it after taking control of this territory. Wang Wei immediately detected countless energy powers, so he focused on the largest one. He saw countless people attacking this beautiful palace, which was surrounded by auspicious clouds, dragons roaming around, and floating in the void as a massive ocean held it up. A powerful shield surrounded the palace, and no matter how many people attacked it, it remained intact. The Dragon Palace, Wang Wei muttered. This was Blood Dragon's primary residence, meaning it was the place with the most outstanding amount of resources. Wang Wei flew to his people. Sect Master, you're finally here, Wang Qi said. He recognized the latter from his aura despite Wang Wei still being inside the puppet. What's the situation? With the help of the changing Fate Hall and the Fate Guard, we've plundered the most powerful branches, outposts, and allies, Wang Qi explained. The Blood Dragon ruled trillions of worlds, universes, domains, and realms. As such, he needed help to control such vast territories, so he had many branches and allies scattered in his territory. So, that only leaves the Dragon Palace, Wang Wei nodded. Yes, but with the Paragon Array, we're powerless, Wang Qi replied. Additionally, someone already went in? Oh. I think it was Sun Junyao, Wang Qi continued. Her people were already waiting, but once she arrived, she used an array-breaking talisman to make a hole in this place's defense and entered. Wang Wei frowned. Where is Red Mask? She and many of her people were already inside before the formation was activated, but we've lost contact. She should have contacted us if her mission had succeeded, Wang Wei commented, thinking about his next step. He could not wholly rely on Red Mask now that he knew Sun Junyao had entered. By the time she takes control of the array and opens a path for them, Sun Junyao might have already plundered the best resources. Even though no paragon is controlling the array, it will take me too long to use brute force to enter, Wang Wei analyzed. However, since Sun Junyao could enter with an array-breaking talisman, it means the formation is not at its peak, so maybe I can use a similar method. Wang Wei did not have a rank 12 array-breaking talisman, but he could try other ways. The array virus? He immediately shelved this idea. In the lower dimension, the idea of the array virus was elevated to Emperor tier, but it was useless for a paragon array unless it could be further improved. However, that was impossible in such a short period. In that case, I can only use a more direct and radical method, Wang Wei concluded before summoning his people. Monk, his wife, the second prince, and everyone else stopped attacking the array and regrouped with Wang Wei. So, he took them to the edge of the Dragon Palace's shield and used his Order Disorder Dao. Wang Wei used the same technique from his fights against 5 feathers, except his target was this array shield. He did not target the entire thing but made a hole deep enough for their team to enter. Such a clever maneuver allowed him to achieve his goal while drastically minimizing the potency of the willpower backlash. Let's go, Wang Wei said as he led everybody inside. The group's action caught the other people's attention, so a few clever people thought this might be their chance to enter, so they rushed into the hole. Sadly for them, Wang Wei's team did not take kindly to these leeches. The poison demoness waved her hand to leave a nasty poison gas before the entrance, instantly killing a few Dao rulers and 1 Empyrean. The gas dissipated after the team entered, and the hole in the formation healed itself. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1285 Plunder, 2, unedited chapter. The void fluctuated before opening up and releasing a group of people, primarily women and less than 5 men, one of whom was Xiao Tiandi. The group calmly landed before looking around. Palace Lord, do we really have to give up the array's central area? Asked one of the women. That woman is powerful. Even if I can take her down, it will take too long, thus delaying our chances of getting more resources, Sun Junyao replied calmly. But we're the only ones who have entered the palace. Our competition is not only those people outside, but the people from the palace, said the announcer, Sun Tong, in her straight and direct manner. Now that the blood dragon has died, how many people will remain loyal? They haven't started plundering because they hope their leader's Dao mark remains intact. I see, nodded the palace lady, who felt unwilling they had to give up the central array hub. That woman, Xiao Tiandi said with a frown. She might be one of Wang Wei's people. Oh. Sun Junyao paused. She had now figured out that Wang Wei was the one she was waiting for. What makes you say that? The strength she exploded with her was the power of fate. Young master, although fate is a rare Dao, countless cultivators are on that path. That's not enough for you to determine it was him, Sun Tong said. I know that, Xiao Tiandi replied, almost rolling his eyes. There are 3 reasons why I believe she's one of his people. 1, her aura is similar to his. Although she tried to hide it, I sensed it. Secondly, it's the fact she was here. From how Wang Wei operates, it should not be a problem for him to predict Blood Dragon's death after seeing the master's projection and prepare beforehand for the looting. Now that you mention it, someone blocked my palace to prevent news from coming and leaving, Sun Junyao commented. That power was terrifying, so she had to use the strength from the palace, a supreme chaos artifact, to leave after killing Blood Dragon. She also sensed a battle in the distance with fluctuation that was the exact origin of the one blocking her palace. That is how he operates, Xiao Tiandi sneered. Well, I'm still not convinced, Sun Tong continued. She was not being difficult just for the sake of being unpleasant. Sun Tong has noticed the young master has formed a rivalry with a man named Wang Wei, which is not a bad thing. According to her speculation, this rivalry is one of the primary reasons the young master got his act together. However, she also noticed he tends to exaggerate Wang Wei's abilities and prowess. She doesn't want him to create a mythical version of his rival and become disappointed once he doesn't meet expectations. Sun Tong fears that such a realization will spiral into a situation where the young master returns to his former decadent self. The Lord's Shadow Technique is a worldwide famous technique from the Dao opening sect capable of cultivating powerful and loyal subordinates at a relatively low cost, Xiao Tiandi explained. Master made me fight an imprint who was a shadow, so I recognized that technique from the woman. Sun Tong frowned. Your friend should have just ascended, but that woman's strength reached the peak of the Empyrean realm. Wang Wei is already an everlasting Empyrean, and his cultivation is probably near the peak, Xiao Tiandi replied with a wry smile. Sun Tong was quiet. She thought her young master had exaggerated things, but he chose a true monster as his rival. She did not know whether this was good or bad, so she glanced at the palace lord, but it seemed the latter was thinking about something else. Master, what is our next step? Sun Junyao pondered. Since he's the one who protected me from the revenge of the parasites, I should return the favor. She decided not to compete for the resources in this place. However, I still need to get what's mine. Before his death, Blood Dragon sealed her access to his dimension. Although it was now in Sun Zhenyo's possession, she could not access all its wealth. We need to find one of Blood Dragon's descendants, Sun Junyao said. She had tried using his bloodline to access that dimension, which almost worked. However, Blood Dragon was truly petty and predicted her actions, thus leaving preventive measures. Now, Sun Junyao will try another way, copy his descendants' bloodline and use them to access that dimension. Let's go, Sun Junyao. She knew that the lustful Blood Dragon had a few children before proving the Dao, and luckily, one of them when he was an Empyrean. Her mission will have been accomplished as long as she gets her hands on one of them. Outside the palace, Wang Wei's team landed on the vast ocean supporting the Dragon Palace. They were less than 20 light years from the entrance, but this was just one step for people like them. However, an army of soldiers suddenly appeared, dressed in silver dragon armor. All trespassers will die, said the dragon army before pointing their spears toward the group. They were perfectly in sync, and the killing intent released by them showed they were well trained and had seen blood. An army of emperors and empyreans, commented the flesh demon. Well, given these people's resources, I shouldn't be surprised. Their weapons, it's all empyrean artifacts, added the flame blacksmith. This army comprised at least 500,000 individuals, yet each held such a powerful weapon. Wang Wei frowned the moment he saw these people. Something feels wrong, Monk said. Indeed, Wang Wei nodded. Poison, flesh, go test them out. The two demons did not hesitate before immediately attacking this army with all their strength. However, the devastating destruction that many anticipated did not appear. The army activated its formation, which gathered its power to condense two Dharma images above its heads that directly confronted the flesh and poison demons. The poison demon's poison was excellent for large-scale killing, so even with the Dharma image's effort, numerous soldiers died in the aftermath. However, as soon as one person dies, a light descends from the sky, and another solder replaces the missing one, ensuring the formation remains in peak shape. This is an illusion formation, said Jiaping, the second prince. His double pupil finally saw the truth. I was thinking there was no way for anyone to cultivate such an elite army, the puppet demon nodded. The world finally made sense to him. You're only saying this because of your ignorance, Monk said. He knew top lineages like the barbarian race or those overlords had large armies of empyreans, let alone this one that consisted mainly of great emperors. The puppet demon looked at him before looking away. He couldn't beat this bastard, so there was no point in arguing with him and possibly suffering humiliation. It seems the people inside have activated the other formations to prevent us from entering, Dulgun commented. She shook her head. None of this would have happened had they been the first to enter. What now? Monk said before flicking his finger. He released an enormous force that instantly annihilated the two Dharma images and the entire army. However, as expected, they immediately recondensed. Even if we know this is an illusion formation, it does not mean we can escape. The enemy's purpose was probably to trap them here and even force them to fight until exhaustion with these illusions. Additionally, even if they knew they were in an illusion, it did not mean that these soldiers' attacks were suddenly invalid to them. A paragon tier array would not have such an apparent weakness. Jiaping, let me borrow your power, Wang Wei said calmly. No problem, Lord. Jiaping's eyes suddenly returned to normal, while Wang Wei suddenly had the double pupil. Wang Wei did not waste time and immediately found a few operational flaws in this array and placed temporary seals on them. The soldiers suddenly became illusory before completely disappearing. However, the team did not have time to rejoice before something else attacked them. A terrifying pressure descended from the heavens, rendering them immobile. Then, countless void tears leading to heaven knows where appeared around them. The attraction from these tears was genuinely terrifying. This should be an exile array. Do something, or who knows where we'll be teleported to, Dulgun hurriedly said. These tears could lead anywhere, including some forbidden spaces in primordial chaos or the source chi space. Although rare, they could also directly lead to another chaos world. I'm on it, Monk said. His muscles trembled to release enough strength to break off from the restraints on him. Then, he manifested a colossal golden giant above his head. The giant palmed downward, releasing a terrifying pressure that closed all the tears. Everyone sighed in relief. It's not over, Wang Wei said calmly, bringing bad news to them. The sky above their heads suddenly turned dark, and everyone's faces turned pale. Their danger senses were activated, and a terrifying warning of death was constantly reverberating in their mind. This is... Wang Wei thought, noticing something. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1286 Plunder 3, That's the Power of Nothingness, Wang Wei thought. He focused, and as expected, that's the power he was familiar with. The Dragon Palace used nothingness to create this potent killing formation. If there were any other people involved, they might die or, at the minimum, be severely injured after dealing with such power. Unfortunately for them, they met Wang Wei. This is a great opportunity, Wang Wei realized. Nothingness-based formations are extremely rare because of the materials required and the fact that most array masters refuse to install them due to the danger. Unless they spent years studying it, most array masters are unfamiliar with this kind of power, meaning it's easy for them to make mistakes in the installation process. However, the slightest mistake also means their deaths and everything around them. By controlling that formation, I can gather enough nothingness power to condense my wheel and enter the battle taboo realm, Wang Wei analyzed with excitement. It seems my luck is on the uptake. As soon as Wang Wei had these thoughts, he paused as he realized something. Besides a few minor setbacks, my luck has constantly risen since my ascension. And after today's haul, no, after my training with the future wife, it should reach its peak. He squinted. After luck reaches its peak, there is only one way for it to go, down. In other words, Wang Wei can already predict that his life will not be so good once he's done training with Wu Hong. I must be ready, he thought. He realized that Supreme Unity was the only person who could truly make his life miserable. In other words, the latter should be making a significant move soon. A sense of urgency suddenly loomed over Wang Wei. However, he also understood this was not the time to be worrying. He no longer wasted time being distracted and summoned his nothingness will to control the upcoming power, allowing their team to navigate this killing array unharmed. He used nothingness for his flesh enlightenment. How crazy is this guy, Monk thought as he saw how Wang Wei dealt with this situation. The barbarian race is masters of body refiners, so they've tried a few times to walk the path of nothingness throughout their history. Unfortunately, everyone brave enough to use that concept, except for one, died tragically as their bodies, souls, and Tao were extinguished by the very power they had tried to control. The only survivor was an inextinguishable paragon who wanted to change his concept from eternity to nothingness. To that barbarian's credit, he made excellent achievements in the path of nothingness during his attempt. His achievements were even higher than Wang Wei. According to Wang Wei's division of the power nothingness, there are 4 stages: intangible, void, emptiness, and true nothingness. Wang Wei was currently at the peak of the void stage, and once he achieves taboo with this power, he'll enter the emptiness stage. That barbarian reached the peak of the emptiness stage. Sadly, he made the same mistake as everyone who tried to walk this path, trying to control true nothingness in one step. According to Wang Wei's recent speculations, he'll only achieve true nothingness after entering the half-step transcendent realm. That barbarian did not understand this and almost died in his attempt to control true nothingness. Luckily, he was a wise man and controlled his greed. At the last moment, he abandoned this path despite it looking like he was so close. While Monk and Dulgun, the only ones who recognized Wang Wei's feat, were in awe of his actions and accomplishment, the latter finally led the team into the Dragon Palace. However, Monk learned an essential lesson from this experience: only crazy people can become anomaly-level talents. There is no need for me to hesitate any longer, Monk thought. He listened to Wang Wei's suggestion that he may need to enter the taboo battle realm to be considered an anomaly, and he's been deducing a technique to do so. He succeeded with his Supreme Chaos Treasure, which helps people create techniques. However, only partially, since all his calculations said he would explode and die instead of increasing his fighting abilities. His wife, usually the voice of reason, convinced him to take things slow and not rush into trying this method. He agreed with her, but now, he decided to rush things by asking Wang Wei for advice. Although that would result in him releasing information about a technique that allowed someone to achieve taboo, he did not care. This technique is flawed, and he might never finish it without proper guidance. After entering the Dragon Palace, Wang Wei saw a small army of 1,000 men waiting for them. This army was the same as the illusion, except this one was real. No, they were more potent since they were all Empyreans. However, he did not want to waste more time, so he annihilated them with one staff smash. Now, he needed to ponder what their next step was. Wang Wei wanted to go directly to the central array hub to control the nothingness array. However, he knew this was not the best utilization of their manpower. Since he tasked Red Mask with a mission, he should trust her to succeed. "We will divide from here," Wang Wei said. "I'll go to the treasury to secure it. Monk, your task is controlling the alchemy room and the other professions. Capture these professions alive. We need them to work for us." Wang Wei was in desperate need of capable professionals, especially after today's event. The people from the Changing Fate Hall have amassed an absurd amount of resources, so there is the possibility they'll stop relying on the hall, at least, not for a couple 100,000 yuan epochs. Luckily, Wang Wei had predicted this and prepared. He sent his people to accompany these mercenaries. He tasked them to focus on taking finished products during the raid and leave the rare materials or resources to the hall members. He did this so these people would have no choice but to rely on the hall to turn these rare resources into finished products like pills, talismans, and artifacts. However, he also needed many professionals for his plans to work, so he targeted Blood Dragon's team. "I can go with him," the Flame Blacksmith suggested. "No problem," Wang Wei said. "Dulgun, your task is the Spiritual Medicine Garden. Puppet Demon will be under your management. Jia Ping, your goal is the Blood Dragon's cultivation room." The second prince's eyes lit up as he realized the importance of such a find. Any places that a higher being like Paragon has cultivated for so long will be embedded with an incalculable amount of Dao rhymes, turning it into a cultivation holy land. Not to mention, there must be countless precious arrays in such a place to accelerate Blood Dragon's practice. Flesh and Poison Demon, your task is to find where the Blood Dragon kept his luck-condensing artifact. He might have kept it on him, so it's fine if you don't find it. Wang Wei was convinced that the Blood Dragon's personal dimension was in Sun Zhenyo's hands, so he did not search for it. "The rest of you need to make as much noise as possible to distract and disperse their forces," Wang Wei continued. "Especially you, Cursed Demon. Spread a nasty curse around to cause chaos." "As you wish, boss." Wang Wei nodded. There were plenty more crucial areas in this place, for example, the library or the unique secret realms with rare resources or training experiences. However, these things could be left for later after securing these main areas and controlling the palace. The last thing he wanted was for the remains of the Blood Dragon people to destroy these areas out of spite and leave them with nothing. Wang Wei was about to disperse the group when he thought of something. He pointed at everyone and released a gray light into their bodies. "You might encounter a Tier 12 creation life form, and this should send you away to safety." Wang Wei was not sure whether Blood Dragon had cultivated any Tier 12 creation creatures. It's possible since creations cannot disobey their creators. However, it's also possible the dragon was paranoid, and out of fear of being betrayed and having his power usurped, he never created any. After all, although creation life forms can't betray their master on their own, it's something else if someone intervenes. Although rare, it's not as rare as an Eternal's avatar betraying them. "Alright, let's move," Wang Wei said before disappearing. He broke through countless spatial layers and a few dimensions before finding the treasury location. And, as expected, there was a gatekeeper, which surprised him slightly. A Dao monarch, Wang Wei thought. And an insurgent? He was confused because this man did pose a threat to him, but it was very low. That can only mean he's using a Paragon artifact to become an insurgent. Wang Wei focused. Although this kind of insurgent was the lowest level, and many people do not even acknowledge their status, he would still take it seriously. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1287 Plunder 4. Wang Wei looked at this middle-aged man with a subtle aura of demons and beasts. He was composed, as if he was confident in his abilities. This was odd since artifact insurgents were often looked down upon. So, Wang Wei had to wonder about this man's source of confidence. "Who are you?" Wang Wei asked. "A dead man does not need to know my name." "So, it's Xian Tang Tian," Wang Wei added, having already divined this much information. However, his actions made this guardian frown. Wang Wei was a master at controlling a conversation's rhythm, so with this simple move, the advantage was already on his side. So, Xian Tang Tian, why are you so loyal? Wang Wei asked. Your oppressor is already dead. But instead of taking this opportunity to get some remuneration and running away, you're still doing his bidding. Why is that? What do you people know? This is only a temporary setback. Once the Lord returns, none of you can survive his wrath, Xian Tang Tian sneered. He will hunt all of you until the end of the earth. Wang Wei calmly looked at this man. Your threat is not as intimidating as you think. As long as these plunderers hide in the lawless zone, they'll be fine. Even if Blood Dragon returns, what can he do? With his terrible fighting ability and the rules of the lawless zone, he'll be useless even if he invaded with all his troops. Xian Tang Tian was immediately speechless. These words had some truths to them. The lawless zone rejected any form of intervention from the outside world, so these people might get away with it if they hide there. Not to mention that by the time he revives, there should be a few more paragons in this world, Wang Wei added, and Xian Tangshan's face contorted. With all the resources plundered, he knew it was guaranteed that a few peak Empyreans would immediately attack the Paragon realm after they left. In the current political climate, one paragon is enough to disrupt the situation, especially if it's someone highly gifted in fighting or, worse, a boundless paragon. All these created a sense of urgency in Xian Tangshan's mind. You still haven't answered my question, Wang Wei said. Why are you so loyal? The controlling method Blood Dragon used in your soul should have dissipated after his death, unless he went as far as using a Dao mark as the basis of the technique. But even if he did, his weakened state should be enough for you to take the risk of removing it. Why do you care? Xian Tang Tian snapped before summoning his paragon artifact, a bracelet. He activated it, transforming him into this golden ape with black armor, boxing gloves, and a terrible fighting intent. Xian Tang Tian had turned into a Saint Battle Ape, one of the most powerful demon races in the Eternal Ascension world. With hesitation, the ape punched Wang Wei. This was a simple punch, but it contained such a potent fighting intent that the surrounding space and time twisted. It was as if this battle-intense purpose was to fight anything between heaven and earth, including conceptual existences. I like to figure people out, and your actions haven't made sense to me yet, Wang Wei calmly responded as he evaded the punch. It seems that the fact that Blood Dragon allowed you to be one of the few Tier 12 cultivators in the world has twisted your psychology, somehow, making you feel special. But is this enough to be this loyal? I don't think so. Wang Wei evaded millions of punches, and during the entire thing, his eyes never left Xian Tang Tian. The latter roared in anger and frustration before using even more potent battle techniques from the Saint Battle Ape clan. However, the result was the same. I see. Your loyalty is out of fear, Wang Wei continued. But is Blood Dragon so terrifying? A ripple suddenly emanated from Xian Tang Tian after hearing these words, and Wang Wei took this opportunity to read more about the latter's fate. So, that's what happened. He once faked his death to catch all the people who wished to betray him, so this fear remains in your heart, Wang Wei nodded. He had to admit that his view of the dragon increased slightly after seeing how he put the fear of God into his subordinate after faking his death. Shut up, you damn rebel, Xian Tang Tian yelled before his fist turned golden, and he smashed down. Wang Wei calmly raised his staff to block that attack. It was so potent that he flew a few kilometers away before stopping. However, a smirk could be seen in the corner of his eyes. It's done, he thought before suddenly condensing millions of runes that rushed into the paragon array protecting the treasury. No, a woman's voice emanated from the formation area, followed by an intense energy fluctuation. Unfortunately, it was pointless as the runes sealed core areas and minor flaws in the formation. What have you done? Roared Xian Tang Tian. Wang Wei calmly looked at him. Now that his main objective was accomplished, there was no point in wasting time with this bastard. He suddenly appeared before the ape and punched it in the stomach. Xian Tang Tian howled in pain. Then, to his horror, he swiftly transformed to his human shape. Wang Wei took the bracelet from him and observed it. An artifact with summoning and demon-controlling laws? Interesting. He realized the artifact's primary purpose was to collect powerful creatures to summon in battles while also transforming into them to acquire their bloodline abilities. However, Xian Tang Tian only had the ape inside, which showed how much trust the blood dragon had in him. Such a precious artifact was wasted on you. Wang Wei shook his head. He was not saying that just because there was only one creature inside. The Saint Battle Apes were one of the most powerful demons in this world, especially in the previous era when one of the tribal's sacred mountains' two primal paragons belonged to them. Whenever there was a conflict with the pre-March Origin Temple, this race was on the front line, tearing the enemy apart. Their achievements in body refining and fighting had reached the peak of the world. Xian Tang Tian probably never experienced more than 10,000 battles in his life, perhaps less after becoming a Dao monarch. How could such a person truly utilize the power of the Saint Battle Ape? Wang Wei put the bracelet away before looking at the treasure entrance. His eyes were not looking at the door but at this woman surrounded by runes. When he arrived, he noticed two presences, Xian Tang Tian and the array spirit of this treasury. In the lower dimension, due to the intense nature of competition and the zeitgeist of self-reliance, most world/cultivation systems do not use things like artifact/array spirit. Instead, those artifacts are given limited intelligence while focusing on increasing their overall attack potency. However, the upper dimensions have more room for leniency, so such methods are more common. Wang Wei was not surprised that this protective formation had a spirit that could control it. However, he also realized the danger of this spirit. It will be exponentially more challenging for him to forcefully break through the formation with a spirit controlling. More importantly, even if he did, the latter could destroy everything out of spite, and there would be nothing he could do about it. So, Wang Wei had to lower her guard during his fight with Xian Tang Tian, find its weakness/flaw, and seal them. She is resisting so damn hard, Wang Wei thought while shaking his head. I should warn the others if they encounter a similar situation. He didn't want any of them to be careless and make him lose a substantial amount of resources. Wang Wei sent the news but immediately sensed something. One of the protective measures he left on his men was activated. His eyes penetrated countless dimensions, and he saw someone pursuing the second prince. A look of shock and anger flashed in Wang Wei's eyes as he saw that person. He saw something that he thought was impossible. He saw a heaven-will paragon. Great emperors who continue to absorb heavens will to cultivate have their paths cut off since 99% die at Empyrean's immemorial tribulations. Despite this low possibility, many people still succeed and become heaven-will Empyreans. This world is too vast, there are too many resources, and there are too many cultivators, thus making it possible to give birth to heaven-will Empyreans. However, that's how far this path goes. None of them should be able to survive the Paragon tribulation. Damn it, that bastard blood dragon deserves to die by lynching, Wang Wei cursed. He knew what it would take to cultivate such an entity. The first was countless heaven wills, and the number was not just to develop someone to 90% Grand Dao source. No, Wang Wei could predict that this bastard had experimented with countless people before he succeeded. As such, the number of heaven wills wasted in such an experiment was astronomical. The second requirement for this plan to succeed was talent. Only an extremely talented individual whose Dao heart, mind state, and willpower had reached the peak would have a chance at surviving the Paragon tribulation. No person/group with a sane mind would waste such a talent and force them to walk the heaven-will path. But this bastard blood dragon did precisely that. Damn it, I want to revive this bastard to kill him again, Wang Wei said with gritted teeth. Such a talent would be considered a boundless paragon seed in any faction, but that dragon ruined it. As someone who loves talent, Wang Wei felt great pain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1288 Plunder, Finale, Unedited Chapter, Jia Ping's pursuer was relentless. A shroud of darkness enveloped the man, allowing him to teleport at an alarming rate. Even with Wang Wei's power taking him away, it's apparent that Jia Ping will soon be captured. Shadow Dao? Wang Wei thought. Not just that. He's a member of the Shadow Clan. A sudden realization dawned on Wang Wei. The Shadow Clan is a unique race with a miserable history. Their clan is born from the shadow. They can be classified as the Spirit Clan since they are shadows that have gained form and sentience. However, unlike the Spirit Clan, whose awakening is random and has few numbers, the Shadow Clan had a unique world that gave birth to them. Besides their unparalleled ability to control Shadow Dao, the clan had one unique characteristic called ultimate allegiance. Once a Shadow Clan member surrenders to someone else, they will be loyal until death. More importantly, a Shadow Clan with a master is immune to 99% of methods that could force them to betray their masters. It's rare for an everlasting Empyrean's avatar to betray them, and methods to achieve such a feat are few and between. However, such methods that are usable against members of the Shadow Clan are even rarer. This ability made the Shadow Clan famous throughout the Eternal Ascension world, but it almost led to their extinction. The Shadow Clan members became a commodity, resulting in countless people hunting them down to train them into their most loyal subordinates. The hunting was so severe that it almost resulted in the clan's extinction. Luckily, fate did not wholly abandon the Shadow Clan. In the middle of the Golden Era, their clan gave birth to an unparalleled genius called the Shadow Monarch. He became a peak boundless paragon at record speed and sheltered his clan. The man was relentless in saving and protecting his clan members. It did not matter who they were, he would attack them if they captured his clan members. That goes for the 13 overlords. Ultimately, the world had to compromise and leave the Shadow Clan alone. These top lineages did not care about the Shadow Monarch's fighting prowess, but they feared his hiding abilities. The man had escaped countless times under the hands of primal paragons, and once, he survived the attack of 3. The top lineages feared the Shadow Monarch would assassinate their top talents, so they compromised and left the Shadow Clan alone. However, the Shadow Monarch should have entered limbo after the ultimate taboo, again leaving his clan vulnerable. The parasites attacked them, killing and capturing many branches. Luckily, the main branch had the means left by the Shadow Monarch and hid themselves from the world. With such a talent, he probably could have been the next Shadow Monarch, Wang Wei lamented with a sigh. Damn it, how stupid are these people? Can't they think for the long term? Even the overlords decided to leave the Shadow Clan alone, but they dared do this to their clan. How were they prepared to deal with the Shadow Monarch? Do they believe the 2 sons would protect them? Anyone with a bit of brain would not know that the Shadow Monarch will one day return, and given how the latter felt about his clan, the first thing he'll do is probably take revenge. Even if not for revenge, the Shadow Monarch must kill these people to establish his prestige. Otherwise, other people might start lusting after his clan again if he showed weakness. Wang Wei shook his head. He summoned 4 time clones before disappearing from his place. He did not immediately attack but waited for the right moment for a sneak attack. His intuition warned him that if that person hid himself, he wouldn't be able to find him in his current state. Wang Wei controlled the power that was protecting Jia Ping, giving the shadow the sense that it was running out. The latter pounced on the opportunity, trying to catch Jia Ping. Here's my chance, Wang Wei thought. The shadow had paused and materialized, allowing him to act. The 4 clones appeared around the shadow and placed their staff around his neck, forming a magic circle that instantly sealed him. Lord, Jia Ping said in relief. Go finish your mission, Wang Wei said. Yes, and thank you for your help. Jia Ping departed, and Wang Wei observed this shadow. If only I could convert him into my follower, he lamented. This was impossible. No matter his method, it won't work for this person. This shadow hasn't committed suicide because it still senses Blood Dragon's Dao mark. Once that is gone, it will also leave the mortal coil, following his lord. Wang Wei's eyes saw the shadow's Dao tree. The tree had 12 golden lights, starting from the root to the top, each light releasing an aura similar to heaven's will. Although it appeared that it only took 12 heavens will to fill this tree, that is a lie. The first heaven will light up the first 9 spots, and the 10th spot will release a slight yellow hue. The 10th spot will then turn golden after absorbing countless more heaven wills. Then, the cultivator will repeat the process for the 11th and 12th spot. Wang Wei frowned as he observed the Tao tree. My conjecture was right. This thing might be a transcendent path. Most people disdain the heaven will path, and with good reasons. However, they also fail to see the uniqueness of this path, and that's the utilization of the heaven will. What is the heaven will? It's a key that grants direct access to the Grand Tao source. It allows Tier 9 cultivators to skip over 100 large cultivation realms and gain direct access to the Grand Tao source, the origin of all laws, rules, and Taos in the chaos universe. Such power represents the direct authority of Grand Tao. Wang Wei once asked his Wu Hong whether paragons could create heaven wills, and she answered no. Many have tried, but none have succeeded, including her. He then asked whether paragons could provide cultivators direct access to the Grand Tao source, bypassing the use of a heaven will. Wu Hong told him that only paragons who hold one of the 3,800 main positions have this power and can only give access to whatever Tao they cultivate. In other words, Wu Hong could only provide access to the sealing Grand Tao source. Emperors cultivated in this manner are called vassal emperors because they are essentially slaves to the paragons who gave them the key. The Tao they cultivate is the Tao of that paragon, thus limiting their achievements. Vassal emperors are not popular in most chaos worlds because of possible disloyalty, and their training time is as long as regular emperors. Instead of wasting time on them, most positioned paragons would just use their grandsmist will and train more creation lifeforms. Countless thoughts flashed through Wang Wei's mind as he observed and analyzed the Tao tree. The person who created this method has an extreme understanding of the heaven will. Wang Wei had 2 theories about the creator of the heaven will method. First, an emperor or empyrean created this method to bypass their lack of talent and reach a higher realm. The other is that a peak paragon created this method as their path to transcendence. This idea is that since the heaven will is an access key, they could access the core of the Grand Tao source after absorbing enough of it. If someone could reach the core of the Grand Tao source, that would mean they had the same level of authority as the Grand Tao, Wang Wei theorized. Such access should be enough to make someone step into the realm of transcendence. But even if it didn't, the creator could still absorb power from the core to nourish their body and soul, thus pushing their strength and maybe realm to another level. I have to say, it's an ingenious method, Wang Wei concluded. I don't know if this method is feasible, but it's worth researching, Wang Wei thought. This path of transcendence was worth researching once he reached the limit. Even if it's not possible, the idea is valuable. Wang Wei may not be able to enter the core of the Grand Tao source as a paragon, but it should be a different story once he's a half-step transcendent and has some means of confronting Grand Tao directly. I can use true deception Tao with this Tao tree method to enter the core secretly and even steal some power from Grand Tao. This idea had plenty of applications for his future, so Wang Wei was excited. Gu Sun's deception Tao might have been a joke before Heavenly Tao and Grand Tao now, but after becoming half-step transcendent and transforming from a chess piece to a chess player, this Tao will be truly valuable. I should start preparing for deception Tao, Wang Wei thought. He plans to understand 100% of this Tao. However, Wang Wei also did not want to waste time slowly cultivating it. He thought that maybe half-step transcendent could easily understand the Grand Tao source, so there was no need to rush. However, he needed to prepare just in case. Wang Wei had 2 plans for this problem. The first one is to search for another double pupil and use it himself to copy the deception Tao. However, such a method has too many restrictions, especially regarding how challenging it is to awaken the double pupil. So, he had to put his hope in the second plan. A project he called Tao Seed Planting. He'll find a talent and mold it into a genius that cultivates whatever Tao that he wishes. Then, when the time is right, he'll take their accomplished Tao fruit, allowing him to reach 100% Grand Tao source. That's how he plans to cultivate his professional Tao and his sub-Taos like destruction and soul. Now, he only needs to add deception to the mix. Wang Wei sensed a message, so he checked. Red Mask finally took control of the central array hub? Excellent. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1289 Spoils and Temptations. Wang Wei waved his hand to materialize a small screen with Red Mask's face. He smiled while asking, "Everything's done?" "Yes, Lord," Red Mask nodded. "I apologize it took so long." "No, you're not to blame." Wang Wei would never blame her for taking so long. On the contrary, he would praise her for succeeding in this mission. In the lower dimension, his fate's shadow guard had a deep foundation, so he was always strict with Wang Ju when she failed. However, in the upper dimension, it was the opposite. Their foundation was weak, and any success in these challenging missions is proof of Red Mask's capabilities. "You did an excellent job this time," Wang Wei said with a smile. "From now on, you're truly Wang Ju's successor." Red Mask's body trembled after hearing these words as she understood the implications. From now on, Wang Wei will trust her more, give her more power, and, more importantly, he'll be more forgiven. She doesn't have to constantly worry about losing her job and position. Of course, this doesn't mean she's worry-free and doesn't have to work hard. However, she can now breathe a little. "Thank you for believing in me," Red Mask bowed. "You've earned it," Wang Wei nodded. "Anything else to report?" "Two things," Red Mask continued. "When I controlled the palace, I noticed a group of people with Xiao Tiandi. They had just captured a few of the Blood Dragon's descendants. They tried to leave with an errand-breaking formation, but I've activated all the palace's formations and captured them." "This must be Sun Junyo's group," Wang Wei muttered. "Sir, what do you want me to do with them?" "Send their leader a message to set up a meeting, then let them go," Wang Wei said. "As you wish." "What's the second thing you wanted to report?" "I've discovered a secret area of the Dragon Palace," Red Mask continued. "According to my analysis, it should be where Blood Dragon kept most of the information from his spy agency. However, that area has an independent array system and central hub, so we might need to use force to enter." "Not necessarily," Wang Wei replied. "Ask Sun Junyao for a few blood essences from the Blood Dragon. Then, use his bloodline to open these formations." "Very well," Red Mask nodded. "We are about to expand," Wang Wei continued. "Are you prepared?" "I am, sir," Red Mask responded. As soon as she knew the content of her mission, she understood the number of resources they were about to acquire, so she had already planned how to utilize them properly and expand the Fate's Shadow Guards. "Good," Wang Wei nodded, very pleased. Red Mask was not only good at her job, she can also anticipate his next moves and prepare in advance. That only means that, slowly and steadily, she's approaching Wang Ju's level. After dismissing the communication, Wang Wei sent a message to everyone else to gather at the central hall once their missions were done before heading into the treasury. Wang Wei immediately salivated. The first thing he noticed was the number of resources below Tier 10. There were so many that even if he combined the resources from the lower dimension, it would only be a fraction of the ones in this treasury. That's truly absurd if you think about how many resources there are for Tier 9 and below across all 3,800 world communities. Wang Wei continued deep into this treasury, and he felt a sense of overwhelming greed seething in his mind. He had to pause, take a moment, and calm his rampaging mind. He understood that if he allowed this greed to influence him, he would take all these resources without sharing them with his men, leading to numerous problems. Although he could suppress his problems with his overwhelming strength, such an act would ruin his reputation among his men and, more importantly, destroy his plans to turn these people into his true followers. He would not do such a short-sighted thing. "I cannot use all these resources even if I wanted to. And as the leader, I control it and can use the most precious one, so why ruin my future for a temporary sense of satisfaction?" Wang Wei thought as he exhaled. Plus, if this small amount of wealth is enough to influence my mind, then I would be disappointed in myself. Wang Wei opened his mind, and he was back to his original self. However, he frowned. It seems my mind is not as perfect as I thought, he muttered. Wang Wei always knew he was greedy. His capitalist tendency to pursue the maximum profit in any situation has become a core aspect of his personality. However, he thought he had absolute control over his greed, but today's events prove him otherwise. It's time for me to cultivate my mind and temper my Tao heart, Wang Wei muttered. Maybe even update my ever-changing Tao heart. If I can experience the life of a man who controls all the wealth in the world and can give up that wealth, my mind should sublimate to another level. Wang Wei has been tempering his mind and Tao heart the natural way through a long life and experiencing things. However, this approach seemed insufficient, and he needed to take some steps. Wang Wei sighed, I have so much to do, but something tells me I don't have much time. He continued observing the things in the treasury, and as expected, there were so many rare things. Wang Wei knew he would not have to worry about resources for a long time. He also has some expectations for the other parasites' treasury. After 30 minutes, Wang Wei left the treasury with a few things. The first was all the resources he needed to cultivate his body, soul, and willpower. During most of Wang Wei's cultivation journey, he never needed to worry about his soul and willpower. However, his body and Tao were about to catch up to those two things, meaning it was about time he emphasized cultivating them. He could wait until his body and Tao catch up to achieve perfect unity, but that approach would only delay him. Since he was confident in raising his other aspects to the peak, it's best to raise his soul and willpower to the limit and wait for them to catch up and achieve unity of the essence, spirit, and qi. The second thing that Wang Wei took from the treasury was all the Tier 11 longevity resources. He kept the Eternal Life Wood and the Second Life Pill, granting an additional 2 extra lives. With the one he had remaining, that's a total of 3. However, Wang Wei was not too excited about this since he had a feeling that these things might become useless after entering the taboo realm. These longevity resources might treat him as a paragon and become useless after achieving taboo strength. The good news is there were enough longevity resources to reward 3 of his most capable men, Monk, Dulgun, and Jiaping. As for the flame blacksmith, Wang Wei will reward him with an innate purple flame, a heavenly flame born between heaven and earth, but the rank is Tier 12. As long as the flame blacksmith succeeds in refining this flame, his soul will enter paragon quantity, and his soul power will reach that level in quantity. Then, the blacksmith will become a talent capable of refining paragon tier artifacts while being an Empyrean. Such achievement will enhance his luck, allowing him to achieve white luck or come close to it. Of course, refining such a powerful flame is a risk. Under normal circumstances, Wang Wei would never have allowed such a thing. However, the flame blacksmith has the talent to succeed, and more importantly, Wang Wei now has enough resources to ensure his survival in case something occurs. I can't believe I found the path refining stone, Wang Wei thought with a smile. This thing could be said to be valuable, while at the same time, not so much. This thing had little effect on most cultivators who only pursue strength in eternal life. However, for someone like Wang Wei, who has a pursuit besides the basic one, this stone is valuable beyond words. That's because it allows him to experience the life of people on a similar path but with a different approach. For example, Wang Wei wants absolute freedom, but there are different ways to approach this goal. He chose the way of control. His way of achieving freedom is by controlling everything and even having the power to take others' freedom. However, someone else might have a different approach. They might want to detach themselves from the rules and just break free from their restraints without being a controlled freak like Wang Wei. With the stone, Wang Wei can experience the lives of these people on the same path as him, learn from them, and temper his mind, Tao heart, and his path to freedom. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1290 Devouring Cauldron, Unedited Chapter Wang Wei returned to the throne room to wait for the others. As he sat there in boredom, looking at the luxurious room, he secretly complained that the people of this world loved thrones too much, forgetting he was the same. The concept of a great emperor, one being who stands above all other gods, demons, immortals, and Buddha and has transcended life and death, has been ingrained in the fabric of this world. Their existence has influenced all aspects of life, including culture and architecture. That's why kings or rulers of dynasties, kingdoms, and empires cannot call themselves emperors unless they've proved the Tao. That's why most cultivators tier 10 and above, even if not an emperor, will build a throne room in their residence. I wonder what her throne room is like, Wang Wei thought, thinking that his future wife's throne might be even more extravagant than this one. While Wang Wei was distracted, his people began to return, starting with the people whose mission was to divert the enemy's focus. Once everybody was here, Wang Wei finally regained his focus. He first glanced at Monk and the Flame Blacksmiths group since they brought a group of people, many with resolute looks on their faces. However, his attention was soon focused on the second prince, Jia Ping. The other was tasked with taking over Blood Dragon's cultivation room, so why did he bring a captured prisoner? Who is this? Wang Wei asked, looking at the handsome everlasting Empyrean with a devilish aura that would probably make many women lose their minds over him. Lord, he's a heavenly devil that cultivated devouring Tao. As soon as he said these words, everyone focused on the handsome young man. They knew what these words represented. Devourer/swallowing Tao is a potent but innately evil Tao. This world does not differentiate much between evil and righteous cultivators. After all, even the weakest great emperors have such a high karma resistance that it's pointless to care how many people they killed. As long as devil cultivators stay away from these top lineages, they can do whatever they please. The world is too vast, and there are plenty of places for them to do whatever they please. Due to this mindset, most cultivators will not care if someone cultivates Devour Tao. It's the opposite. Most people will recruit them since it is an outlaw Tao unless you're lucky enough to have cultivated it in certain worlds in the lower dimension. Of course, there is an exception to this world, when the devouring cultivator walks the path of the heavenly devil. Since ancient times, devouring cultivators have held most of the records for the fastest cultivation, and that statement holds throughout the chaos universe. But why is that? After swallowing them, could they acquire a person's percentage of the Grand Tao source? No. Grand Tao would not leave such a loophole for them to exploit. Devouring cultivators don't have this ability until they've reached the peak of their Tao, and even then, there are some restrictions. Devouring cultivators can turn what they swallowed into the purest Tao rhymes, which can accelerate cultivation speed. These pure Tao rhymes may not be as good as merit, but they are better than most pills, and there are plenty of them as long as the heavenly devil continues to swallow emperors, empyreans, and even paragons. Could it be? Wang Wei asked. Yes, Jia Ping nodded. Blood Dragon kept him in captivity so he would refine Tao rhymes for him. This guy is truly useless, Wang Wei thought. With all these resources and advantages, the Blood Dragon's cultivation was still only 93% Grand Tao source. More importantly, he knows how to play with fire. Wang Wei only took a glance at this little devil to figure out the latter was slowly planning to swallow the Blood Dragon, and honestly, given how stupid the dragon was, Wang Wei believed the little devil might have succeeded. After all, his cultivation was the peak of the Empyrean realm. With how suspicious Blood Dragon was, it was a remarkable feat for him to convince him to reach such a level, probably with the promise of making more precious Tao rhymes with higher cultivation. Sir, what do we do with him? Asked the Curse Master. This little devil was a fantastic resource, and as long as he gets a small amount, his cultivation can increase. Give him to me, Wang Wei said. The devil flew into his hands, and as their eyes met, the heavenly devil's body trembled out of fear. He knew this man was not the idiot that was the Blood Dragon and might be able to control him truly. Your instinct is correct, Wang Wei said as if he could read his mind. Wang Wei pointed his hands on his forehead, and the little devil started to fight back. Sadly, the seal put on him by the Blood Dragon was still active. Additionally, Jia Ping was careful and added his means of restraint. Wang Wei's power entered the devil's sea of consciousness and sealed all his memories, thoughts, and emotions, leaving him in a cold and indifferent state, similar to a machine. Then, under Wang Wei's control and the shock of everyone in the room, the devil turned into a cauldron. For the last touch, Wang Wei changed his fate, giving him the duty of only producing Dao rhymes. Unless someone intervened and altered it, this would be his fate for the rest of his life. Wang Wei looked at the latter's emotions and memories and decided to keep it for now. In the future, he might allow the latter to enter the Paragon realm so that he could create better Dao rhymes. As for the cruelty of Wang Wei's actions, no one said or cared about it. On the contrary, they think Wang Wei's approach was brilliant. The cultivation world was cruel, and themes like survival of the fittest and cannibalism are mainstream. Additionally, the devil was not some innocent person. The fact he chose the path of the heavenly devil meant he was prepared to start a storm throughout the world by going on a killing/swallowing spree. We may need an array to boost his production speed, Wang Wei said to everyone else. Additionally, we need bodies to refine Dao rhymes. He paused briefly. This is what we'll do. You guys can hunt devil cultivators and attack the bases/allies of the parasites to gather materials. 60% of the Dao rhymes belong to me, and the rest is for you. The others did not mind the fact Wang Wei had the largest share. Things have always been this: the boss gets most of the resources, and others share the soup. The fact he was willing to give 40% was quite generous. Wang Wei looked at Wang Qi, organize a group to look for tombs or places of mass sealing. Emperor's tombs are not actual places to bury the dead, but places to ensure an emperor can revive themselves without interference from their enemies. Not everyone has enough resources to provide a rapid revival, so most emperors will create isolated tombs to ensure their return. As for the seal places, many factions will seal themselves when encountering a catastrophe. As long as they wake up countless Yuan epochs later, the catastrophe might have passed, or their enemies might be dead or long forgotten about them. Wang Wei's target was those places since they usually had countless emperors and Dao ancestors. As long as we can capture these bodies before their consciousness awakens, they can be fed into this devouring cauldron to make Dao rhymes. I'll get it done, Wang Qi replied. He immediately sent a message to the Changing Fate Hall to create a new mission about finding tombs and sealed places. Wang Wei nodded in approval with his swift action. His focus then finally shifted to monk. These are the professions you wanted, but we refuse to serve anyone else, said a middle-aged man dressed in a red robe with cloud patterns. He had a severe expression, and his body emitted a faint aroma of herbs like most alchemists. You are? Wang Wei asked. Empyrean Cloud Flame, the middle-aged man responded. And as I said, we refuse to work for anyone else, even if it means our death. Wang Wei calmly looked at this man and the others. They were not joking. All these professions have already planted a command in their soul. As long as someone remotely gets close, it will detonate, killing them instantly. They are determined, Wang Wei thought. He knew that force was out of the question since he was not skilled enough in Soul Dao to prevent these people from killing themselves. Any of you can do anything about this situation? Wang Wei asked his men, but no one had a solution. Our barbarian race is an expert in ceremonial magic, Dulgun said. So, if you give me time and can trick them into the location, I might be able to stop them from killing themselves. How much time are we talking about? Wang Wei asked. Too much. Dulgun did not say a number since she knew it was too much. She only brought it up to raise her value in the eyes of the boss, not to provide an actual solution. I guess I'll have to sweet-talk them, Wang Wei thought. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1291 Kong's Contribution. I understand how you feel, Wang Wei said as he looked at this group. He raised his hands to stop them after noticing they were about to explode due to his words. Although I haven't lived a similar experience, I can understand, Wang Wei continued. You spent your entire life studying a profession, and after years of hard work and success, your status is noble and respected. No matter the place or time, alchemists or other professions are respected, and that's because the ratio of cultivators to professions is too low. The world is vast, and there are plenty of resources. However, no matter how many professionals there are, it will never be enough for the entire world. Even top lineages who can cultivate their own profession often feel they do not have enough. However, Wang Wei continued. Just as you were about to reap the fruit of your labor, these parasites came into power. They took away your pride, status, and, more importantly, your dignity. They turned you into, well, to put it directly, into slaves. They controlled your lives, showed you no respect, did not pay you, and, more importantly, cut off your path of progress. Am I right? The room was quiet. He was correct. That's how these people felt. That's why they would rather die than submit to someone else again. Empyrean Cloud Flame took a deep breath to calm down. What's the point of saying this? Are you trying to put salt in our wounds? Of course not, Wang Wei replied with a gentle smile. I'm telling you this to show you I understand how you feel and that I'm different from Blood Dragon. Our working relationship will be more of a cooperation. You'll work for me, but you'll also be compensated. I'll give you the dignity and respect you deserve. More importantly, you'll have your freedom, and I won't care where you live as long as the things I want are delivered in time. Wang Wei had a sincere smile, but Red Cloud would not buy it, so he said, that sounds too good to be true. What's the downside? Where is the trick? He looked Wang Wei in the eyes. Might as well be direct and truthful because we have nothing else to lose. We have already considered ourselves dead. You're being a little overdramatic, Wang Wei said calmly. As for the downside? All I ask is you make my orders a priority. In other words, you want us to work exclusively for you, Could Flame sneered. Now, you're twisting my words, Wang Wei said. I said to prioritize my orders, not that you only take orders from me. Plus, I'm not asking you to work for me for the rest of your life. Our contract can have an expiring length, and after that date, based on our previous experience, you guys can decide whether to sign again. These professionals took a moment to consider. They have to admit that if Wang Wei was telling the truth, he did give them enough freedom and return power and dignity to them. And what if we refuse to work with you? Cloud Flame asked. His words brought everyone's attention to Wang Wei again. Simultaneously, these professionals were glad they chose him as a representative since he could ask the hard questions. Nothing will happen. You can live if you don't want to work with me, Wang Wei replied calmly. You expect me to believe that? Red Cloud sneered. What do you want me to say? Kill you? I don't need to do that since others will do it for me. What do you mean by that? Wang Wei looked at them calmly. All of you are in this predicament because you were talented, but your background was weak. These parasites would not dare capture the professionals from these top lineages. They would instead secretly and openly assassinate them but not dare use them. After leaving this place, what do you think will happen to you guys, talented professionals who have no potent background to protect you? You'll either die at the hands of the remnants of Blood Dragon, the other parasites will try to capture you again, or some other faction will once again lust after your talent. And you know they will not be as friendly to talk as me. Some of them will not care about whether you wish to die or not. To them, your death means their enemy will not become powerful, and their foundation will not deepen. The faces of these professionals turned ugly. They knew there were some truths behind Wang Wei's words. Many of them once belonged to another of the moons but were acquired by Blood Dragon through competition, gambling, and even direct kidnapping. They were treated as commodities, as a game to weaken the forces of the other moons. They were stuck in the alchemy hall not only because the Blood Dragon wished to control their lives but also to protect them from the others. Cloud Flame wanted to tell Wang Wei to stop using fear-mongering tactics but did not do so. His purpose as the elected representative of the group was to protect their interest, and knowing the truth they will face once they gain their freedom is in their best interest. This is Wang Qi, one of my most trusted subordinates, Wang Wei said. He has all the power to represent me. You can negotiate with him the nitty-gritty of the working contract. If you disagree with the final result, he'll give you some starting funds so you can leave and start your life in the outside elsewhere. For those who leave, my doors will forever be open if you choose to return. Come with me, Wang Qi said to the group, leading them to another room for the negotiation. As he was leaving, Wang Wei sent him a message through divine sense. Use the fact and the destined one and their hatred for the parasites to get more advantage in the negotiation. However, you can be more lenient regarding the length of the contract. Wang Wei knew what these people valued more than anything currently was their freedom, so he did not mind a short contract. As long as they sign, he can treat them better so they can sign again and eventually turn them into his men when he returns to the Tao opening sect. Why are you here? Wang Wei asked, looking at Red Mask. She should have been organizing Blood Dragon's information and spy agency. There's a space dragon in charge of the spy network, and he was causing chaos when we opened the vault. Did he destroy the information? Wang Wei asked with a frown. I've acted swiftly, so he did not destroy anything valuable, Red Mask responded. However, their headquarters is a mess. Well, take time to organize everything. Wang Wei looked in the distance and saw through their headquarters. The space dragon liked to keep the information on paper instead of recording jades or other storage means. To ensure nothing happened to these documents, the space dragon made these papers from his scale, making them extremely hard to destroy. The headquarters was now full of paper everywhere, and the Fate's shadow guards were organizing it. Another waste of resources, Wang Wei thought. How valuable was dragon scale, and how easy was it to acquire? The dragon race has long known how valuable their scales were, so they've developed methods of shedding and using them for various reasons, including exchanging resources with other races. Although many dragons think such an act is beneath them, many others don't care so much, especially in desperate times. You should not have come here just because of the chaos, Wang Wei said. No, my lord, we've found something important, and I wanted to report it immediately, Red Mask responded before showing Wang Wei a blueprint. A pillar? Wang Wei first thought before looking at it closely. So, that's why the world is not full of resentments. These parasites have built these pillars in their territories that can transform the resentment between heaven and earth. But, since when were they so capable? Wang Wei finished reading this blueprint and realized something. The core of this blueprint is transformation. The transformation of resentment into something beneficial to heaven and earth. Such brilliant methods would require a deep mastery of transformation Tao. This is Emperor Kong's work. As astute as always, my lord, Red Mask praised. According to the information gathered, Emperor Kong offered this method to the parasites. He probably used this to convince them to reopen the academies under his leadership. Heroes truly rise during adverse times, Wang Wei sighed. Is Emperor Kong a hero? It depends on what perspective his actions are observed. The resentments of all sentient beings should have slowly eroded the chi luck of all these parasites, and by washing them away, Emperor Kong essentially prolonged the reign of the parasites. However, such large-scale resentment is not good for the eternal ascension world. If it were not dealt with, there would be more cultivators with heart demon, and people would be more impulsive, resulting in countless more killings worldwide. So, Emperor Kong's actions could be said to have saved trillions of lives. I remember I had a meeting with Emperor Kong, Wang Wei thought. After everything that has happened, it's very likely for the latter to cancel it, so he decided to send another invite. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1292 Aftermath, unedited chapter, anything else to report? Wang Wei asked. Nothing for now, Red Mask replied. Alright, Wang Wei nodded before looking at Monk. What's the current situation of the profession hall? There were not as many resources as expected, Monk replied. It seems Blood Dragon controlled these people strictly. However, I discovered countless heavenly flames available for them to use. Additionally, Blood Dragon once refined a paragon's soul into a formation to provide enough soul power for their work. No wonder these people were determined, Wang Wei commented. He could predict the working situations of these professionals. Blood Dragon forced them to work for countless yuan epochs without rest, using the soul formation to replenish their soul power and spirit instead of taking a break. I'm surprised these people did not break sooner, Wang Wei commented. There is a reason for that. Oh. Have you heard of the Tao Path tablet? Wang Wei took a moment to remember. You mean the luck condensing artifact from the Skill Tao Association? The one that contains the explanation of all professional Taos from 0% to 100%? That's correct, Monk nodded. These parasites took it for themselves and have agreed to share it on a time basis. These professionals endured for so long just for an opportunity to use that thing. Tell me it was our turn, and this thing is in our possessions, Wang Wei quickly asked. Unfortunately, no, Monk broke his dreams. Blood Dragon went through a lot of effort to make a copy, but it only goes until 89% or the peak of Empyrean. What a shame, Wang Wei sighed. Boss, even if the real thing was here, would you dare take it? Monk asked. You should know what Skill Tao Association will do to retrieve this item once their ancestors return. Why wouldn't I take it? I'm not the one who stole it in the first place, Wang Wei replied. Of course, it's another question of whether to keep it. Such an item is enough to start a Tao war between two overlords. I figure you would say that, Monk chuckled. We must get our hands on that thing, Dulgun said with a severe face. Of course, Monk nodded. Blood Dragon might not be able to copy it fully, but the Barbarian clan and the Tao opening sect should have no issue. This was a supreme artifact used to cultivate professionals. Although many top lineages have their methods of cultivating professionals, they are not as good as the Skill Tao Association or the Origin Seal Continent. However, the latter is not so good at training professionals as they are excellent at teaching runes, which is the foundation of these professions. If the Barbarian race and the Tao opening sect can get their hands on that artifact and copy it, their lineage's overall foundation will drastically improve. This is indeed a once-in-lifetime opportunity, Wang Wei thought. Under normal circumstances, the Skill Tao Association would never allow such an artifact to leave their sight. Truth be told, Wang Wei did not believe the parasites could force the association to hand over such an artifact. They would rather fight and perish with those bastards than hand it over. The only way they could have succeeded is if the two sons intervened, or one of the parasites, probably Time Eater, used the name of the two sons to force the association to hand over the artifact. Do you know whose turn it is? Wang Wei asked. The Earth Emperor, Monk replied. That's what the professionals told him. Should he be my next target? Wang Wei thought. However, he soon gave up that idea. His next target must be chosen after years of gathering information, analysis, and maybe even waiting for an opportunity. Put a little more emphasis on the Great Chu Divine Dynasty, Wang Wei ordered Red Mask. The current situation should have everyone on edge, so lie low and be less aggressive until their nerves are no longer tense. I understand. Anything else? Wang Wei asked Monk, but he shook his head. So, he focused on his wife. What's the situation of the spiritual herb garden? I've never seen an entire garden made of primordial chaos soil, Dulgun sighed. However, despite her words, Wang Wei was not surprised. He knew these parasites had amassed too many resources, most of which were wasted. So, he was not surprised Blood Dragon had access to the rare primordial chaos soil, capable of growing anything. That is good news, Wang Wei nodded. Emperor tier and above spiritual herbs have different requirements for soil, nourishment, environment, and even growing time. As such, raising these magical herbs usually takes time and a great deal of expertise. However, primordial chaos soil removed most of these hassles. It can grow 99% of herbs without worrying about the environment. It can draw nutrients directly from the source chi space or the Grand Tao source to nourish the herbs, and lastly, it can significantly accelerate the maturing time. Yes, Dulgun. Additionally, the garden has also birthed its own plant spirit, which also greatly enhanced the maturing time of the herbs. So, it's a top spiritual garden, Wang Wei said. Does it have its own time acceleration formation? It does, Dulgun nodded. Better yet, it also has a good fortune array and a supreme wood array to aid it. Is the garden naturally made? For a moment, Wang Wei thought the thing might have been some kind of supreme chaos artifact. No, artificially, Dulgun replied. She also had the same idea as Wang Wei and checked, but she realized the thing was the result of Blood Dragon's hard work and effort. I see, Wang Wei nodded. Anything else? The Blood Dragon planted a lot of bloodface flower, Dulgun reported. Wang Wei frowned. Bloodface flower was something used by innate creatures and demons to accelerate their bloodline development. However, this thing should have been useless to the Blood Dragon since his bloodline had matured by the time he had proven the Tao. So, unless he had acquired a unique bloodline on par with fiend gods or a supreme chaos bloodline, it would have been useless for him to use this flower. However, Wang Wei remembered one of the minor effects of this bloodface flower: increased physical strength. As long as someone has a decent enough bloodline, they can continue to take this flower and improve the strength of their physical bodies. So, this bastard was afraid of the pain of true body refining, so he decided to take the easy way out, Wang Wei commented. It's possible for someone to have the physical strength of an Empyrean or a Paragon without being a part of the true power Tao realm. Most likely, Dulgun nodded. Well, it doesn't matter now, Wang Wei said. The bloodface flower was perfect for his human fiend god bloodline. Once this mess is finished and he retreats, he has more confidence to cultivate his body to a higher level with the fastest speed possible. I think that's it for now, Wang Wei announced. The aftermath of today's operation was far from over. After all, Blood Dragon controlled millions of worlds, and the resources available to him have not been counted and categorized yet. However, this kind of work is for Wang Qi and his managerial team. All of you have done a great job in this operation, and you'll be rewarded, Wang Wei continued. However, you have to wait for a few days until Wang Qi categorizes everything. In the meantime, you can try to convert Blood Dragon's people into our own. The ones who agree can be integrated, but you can feed the rest to the Devouring Cauldron. Wang Wei paused briefly after saying this. Everyone is dismissed except for Monk, Dulgun, Jiaping, and Flame Blacksmith. These words should have ended this meeting, but Puppet Demon, who was gritting his teeth in the corner, suddenly spoke up. Sir, I have something I want to report. Oh. I'm listening, Wang Wei said. With enough resources, I can build a puppet army on par with the army we saw in the illusion, Puppet Demon announced. They will be fully armored, powerful, have no feelings, and can be extremely useful after teaching them a powerful enough array. More importantly, they will take less time to be built. That's a bold statement, Wang Wei said with squinting eyes. I've thought of a new method, sir, Puppet Demon. With enough professionals at my side, we can build the puppets with a standard size. Then, we'll create different parts before assembling them. With this method, our efficiency will increase exponentially. Did he just create the cultivation version of the assembly line? Wang Wei thought, looking at the Puppet Demon strangely. When did this guy get so smart? Wang Wei looked at him and realized what had happened. This guy felt the pressure. He realized Wang Wei mostly valued Monk and the others, while the others were just pawned. Feeling the pressure, the Puppet Demon thought of this way to make himself valuable and enter the inner circle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1293 Puppet Method, and I apologize in advance. This chapter was supposed to be short and brief about the puppet method, but I just went on a tangent and could not stop writing. Things should speed up from now on. Come with me, Wang Wei said to the Puppet Demon, an act which made the former demonic leader excited. Meanwhile, the other looked at him with envy. Simultaneously, they felt a sense of urgency. Their boss did not hide his high regard for Monk and a few group members. However, after today, they realized that there was an inner group among their team, and the requirement to enter was to be valuable. Zhou Bo, the former leader of the Grand Mist Gang, clenched his hands as he watched the puppet demon walk away to another room with the leader and the others. His eyes shifted to the corner to glance at the Bloodline Gang leader, and the killing intent in his eyes almost leaked. If I can pass that tribulation and become an everlasting Empyrean, I'll not only be able to kill that bastard, but I'll also be like the puppet demon. A resolute look flashed in his eyes. Zhou Bo was not the only one thinking about how to enter the inner circle. After what the puppet demon did, everyone had the same thought, the same ambition. Wang Wei sensed the changes in these people's moods with his divine sense. He seldom does anything randomly, so his actions of leaving Monk and his group behind were done purposely to motivate these people. He needed to establish a hierarchy and force these people to compete for better resources and his approval. Such a tactic was Management 101, and he used it brilliantly. The puppet demon's action was unexpected, but it helped his actions. After all, these people saw how the puppet demon made an outstanding achievement and was invited into the inner circle. What better way to light a fire under these people than seeing someone who was once on the same level as them rise to the top and acquire privileges they could only dream of? Wang Wei found a quiet room, and everybody sat opposite each other. He did not serve tea or anything like this and went directly to the business. Tell me more about your idea. The puppet demon exhaled. He came up with his idea on the spot, and he took significant risks by presenting it to Wang Wei. However, he was now a fired arrow, and there was no turning back. During the short walk from the throne room, he refined his idea but did not think it was enough. Fuck it. Let's just wing it, Puppet Demon said before using the energy between heaven and earth to draw a diagram. It's like this. He explained his thoughts while designing this new kind of puppet. Luckily for him, the flame blacksmith was interested in his idea, and he had some accomplishments in puppetry, so they discussed and refined this idea. The puppet demon's idea was the cultivation world's version of an assembly line. He divided the puppets into 5 parts: head, torso, upper limbs, lower limbs, and core. All the parts will have a standard of refinements, allowing them to be assembled to create the finished product. This method drastically reduced the refining process since the puppet master does not need to refine the entire thing, just a part. The puppet demon's idea was great but also encountered a few problems. 2 primary ways for professionals to refine their products were direct baptism or rune resonance. Direct baptism requires the professional to deeply understand whatever Tao they will infuse in their creation. For example, if a refiner had to refine a fire sword and had a deep enough comprehension of Fire Grand Tao Source, they could directly nourish the refined artifact with Fire Grand Tao Source. Rune resonance, the more universal approach, allowed professionals to use Taos with whom they have no understanding or relationship. However, the study of runes is no less complex than directly comprehending a Grand Tao Source. The puppet demon's method cannot use direct baptism to make the puppets, as that would require utilizing professionals who have comprehended the same Tao. However, there were also problems with using rune resonance. Soul power/spiritual power is used to engrave runes. However, refining is deeply personal, meaning every professional is different, making their soul power different. They have different compositions, strengths, weaknesses, frequencies, and even ideals and goals that will affect the nature of a person's soul power. Due to the difference in soul power, the inscribed runes on the puppet parts will also differ, resulting in their incompatibility and conflict. This made putting them together in the final stages impossible. However, Flame Blacksmith easily solved this problem, suggesting using arrays to purify the refiner's soul power and ensure they had the same soul frequency. This problem was solved without an issue, but another arose, and it was in the same area of compatibility. Refiners have different skills regarding rune engravement. If the rune in the puppet's arm is way better than the one in its arm, the final fusion will also fall apart. Wang Wei did not waste time and pointed out the crux of this idea: standardization. Everything must be of the same standard: the puppet's body parts, the soul power used to engrave the runes, and the skill of the refiner. Only with this approach will they achieve their objectives of manufacturing these puppets at a record speed. Flame Blacksmith frowned after seeing the final result. This method can indeed drastically increase the speed of manufacturing puppets, but their strength will be average. The standards they've created cannot be too high, and most puppet masters or refiners will not meet the standards. Additionally, most refiners are prideful and would disdain doing such soulless work. Wang Wei heard his words but did not immediately comment. What do you guys think? I think speed is the key to this idea, Monk commented. Sacrificing power for speed and a large quantity. He realized the value of such a method, especially for top lineages with many professionals. This was a method to increase the war prowess of any faction. As for the blacksmith's comment about professional pride and soulless work, Monk and the others do not care. They understood that professionals value wealth as much as everyone else, so most will do this kind of work as long as they are paid sufficiently. The question is, how much should we invest in this new method? Jia Ping added. From what I understand, we have just acquired a bunch of talented puppet masters. One puppet they make might be worth hundreds, maybe 1,000 of these fastly produced puppets, albeit it takes much longer to make. So, should we focus on making elite or ordinary puppets? That is a fair point, Monk nodded. Although he supported this idea and cannot wait to integrate it into the barbarian clan's foundation, that's something for the future. In the current situation, the cost-effectiveness of this method is worth discussing. After hearing this, the puppet demon was instantly worried. The value of his idea will determine his future in this group, meaning it would be a significant blow to his future if the leader decided this idea was not currently applicable. The answer to our problem is right in our face, Wang Wei finally spoke. The puppets are ordinary, meaning the skill requirements to create them are also ordinary. We can take ordinary emperors or empyreans with above-average souls and refining talents and teach them this method. They only need to remember how to refine less than a dozen ores and memorize a few hundred runes before they can make these puppets. Most of the people in the room were smart, so they understood the implications behind these words. Better yet, Dulgun added. We can hire the refiners with low aptitude. Many professionals in the world can only refine a few products, which takes too long, and their success rate is abysmal. They have the foundation, and will only need minimal training, Dulgun continued. Exactly, Wang Wei nodded. In the past, these lesser professionals could still make a livelihood through the Skill Dao Association, but now? The Flame Blacksmith shook his head. That only means hiring them at a lower price will be easier, Jia Ping added. Everyone agreed. I have a question, Wang Wei continued, looking at the puppet demon and the Flame Blacksmith. The final assembly of the puppet parts requires an emperor, correct? If you're making a tier 10 puppet, yes, Blacksmith replied. Is it possible for someone in tier 9 and lower to do it? I mean, with training and assistance from arrays and so? The non-professional's eyes lit up. The cost of these puppets would further decrease if that were possible. It's possible, the Flame Blacksmith responded. The last assembly does not require much skill, so depending on the cultivation systems, a quasi-emperor should be able to handle it after the necessary training and assistance from arrays. That's good news, Wang Wei said with a smile. He then looked at the puppet demon. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1294 Recycle. Wang Wei was puzzled how someone like the puppet demon was capable of such an idea. It's apparent from his performance that he suddenly thought of this, meaning such a level of ability was beyond his norms. It's perfectly possible for him to suddenly have an excellent idea, Wang Wei thought. My suspicion is mainly because his idea involves puppets. I've been planning for so long to train Kai Song into the ultimate war machine, and this puppet demon suddenly had an idea that could eventually help in that cause? It was too suspicious. So suspicious that Wang Wei suddenly believes that his future self might have implanted this idea into the puppet demon's head to lay down a foundation for Kai Song's eventual rise. Wang Wei sighed. Ultimately, it did not matter. The puppet demon's value had drastically increased, and one day, he might become Kai Song's right-hand man. You did a great job, Wang Wei praised. Thank you, Lord, and I couldn't have done it without Blacksmith. I just helped a little. The blacksmith had his pride, so he would not take or share credit for something like that. You'll be in charge of this operation, Wang Wei said, cutting them off. You'll have all the necessary resources, but you shouldn't neglect your training. I'll reward you with a few Tier 12 ores for you to make your puppet core. The puppet demon's eyes lit up. Building a Tier 12 core? Well, his skills were not enough for something like this. However, he could build the best Tier 11 core, and as long as he enters the next rank, his core will also evolve. Thank you for the reward, Lord. Wang Wei nodded. All of you have contributed greatly to this operation, so I'll also reward you. He gave them the longevity resources, along with the heavenly flame. Everyone thanked him. After all, who wouldn't want an extra life? However, the flame blacksmith had a hesitant look. Is something wrong? Wang Wei asked. I don't think I deserve such a high reward, flame blacksmith. Those were his genuine thoughts. He did not help much with the defensive arrays outside or the other arrays after they entered. It was Monk who killed everyone in their path and subdued all the resistances in the professional halls. As such, Flame Blacksmith felt he did not do anything to deserve such a reward. Just your help with Puppet Demon's idea is worth the reward, Wang Wei said. Plus, I have a mission for you. If you feel you haven't earned this reward, use this opportunity to compensate for it. Oh. You'll be in charge of these professionals, Wang Wei ordered. I need you to monitor their state while also creating an environment for them to feel a sense of belonging to our cause. Can you do it? I'll do my best, Flame Blacksmith nodded. That's all I ask for, Wang Wei nodded before summoning the sealed Shadow Clan, showing it to everyone. What an absolute waste of resources, Monk said. He figured out the same thing as Wang Wei, knowing the circumstances of giving birth to a Heaven-Will Paragon. This should be a crime, Dulgun added. Jia Ping had a pained look on his face. Even at their prime, his dynasty might not have the resources to do something so atrocious. The puppet demon was confused but kept calm as if he knew what was happening. Meanwhile, the flame blacksmith shook his head and said, I thought Heaven-Will pills were already the most wasteful things in the world, but this is another level. The alchemists of the Eternal Ascension world have explored using Heaven Wills to make pills. The most famous was the Pure Source pill, which can allow a great emperor to instantly increase their cultivation by 20% without any side effects. Although this pill is only helpful for people with cultivation below 50%, it is indeed precious. However, this pill requires a minimum of 10,000 Heaven Wills and an Empyrean alchemist. No sect or faction is willing to waste the potential birth of 10,000 great emperors to help one great emperor drastically increase their cultivation, so this pill rarely happens. As for its counterparts for Empyreans and Paragons, the former exists, but the latter is only a rumor. I had the same reaction, Wang Wei sighed before focusing on Dulgun. Is there a way you could recycle some of Heaven Wills from the truth? Wang Wei had a few methods he could try, but based on his calculations, the final result would be abysmal. He could probably only recuperate less than 100 Heaven Wills. He was unsatisfied with this number. Our clan has a ceremony that can reverse cause and effect, Dulgun replied after mulling it over briefly. The ceremony should be able to recycle 10% of the Heaven Will used. Wang Wei pondered. This number looked small but exponentially higher than his measly 100. But, of course, Wang Wei wanted more. Could it be higher? If I can study more about Heaven Wills and Dao trees, and with the help of your Dao, we might be able to raise the percentage by another 15 to 20%, Dulgun analyzed. However, she glanced at her husband but did not finish her line of thought. Wang Wei understood her meaning. She would need a significant amount of knowledge on these topics if this plan were to succeed. However, this couple was in a similar situation to his. They were in exile to protect themselves from the parasites, and now that they've joined Wang Wei, they also wanted to distance themselves from their clan to give them plausible deniability in case everything went sideways. The couple would need to contact their clan to acquire the knowledge required for this plan, and doing so is dangerous since they might leave clues. Not to mention that the world was now in a sensitive situation after Blood Dragon's death. They must be careful before deciding whether to contact their clans. I understand your worry, but don't worry. I have a way to get the knowledge you need, Wang Wei reassured. However, his words only made Dulgun frown. Lord, you should understand that Blood Dragon is new rich. Even if he had studied heaven's wills, his accumulation is nothing compared to our lineages. Unless you're thinking of contacting your sect. Monk frowned. This task might become complicated if the boss had to risk contacting his sect while he and his wife evaded the responsibility and did not do the same. I'm not talking about the Dao opening sect, Wang Wei replied. However, his words were not reassuring. Then, from where? Dulgun asked. I'm not trying to pry, but if the knowledge is subpar, it will be useless. Don't worry, Wang Wei reassured with a smile. This person should have the greatest library in the world. Those are bold words, Dulgun thought. However, she did not believe Wang Wei was the kind of person to brag without any substance to back it up. However, she could not think of someone who can confidently say they have the world's most fantastic library. The myriad temple of records, before it was shut down by these parasites, held copies of all the cultivation systems in the Eternal Ascension world. However, such a library still could not be considered the greatest in the world since it only contains cultivation techniques. Most top lineages will have a much grander library than the temple. Dulgun shook her head. Since she could not think of it, there was no point in overthinking. She had to believe in Wang Wei's words. Then, it's settled, Wang Wei said as he handed her the seal. He did not mind their skepticism. However, he was not bragging. His future wife's Dao involved knowledge, so he does not doubt she has the most fabulous library in the world. Just thinking about it made him excited. Well, that's it for now, Wang Wei said to the team. There was nothing else for them, so he dismissed everybody. However, he also warned them not to let this victory get into their heads since they had a long way to go, especially since this victory resulted from someone else's work. He also warned them to use the resources available to increase their strength as much as possible. Wang Wei already predicted that supreme unity is about to move, and a significant storm is about to envelop the world. Their team was powerful but far from enough to ensure everyone's safety in the upcoming chaos. Everybody left, but Monk stayed. Is everything all right? Wang Wei asked. Yes, Monk nodded. I have a technique that I want your opinion on. Monk condensed a talisman that flew into Wang Wei's hands. With a cursory glance, Wang Wei could tell this was a technique to enter the battle taboo realm. He expected this since he noticed Monk was slightly obsessed with Jia Ping's talent classification. Wang Wei read the entire thing. The technique was a prototype and needed to be perfected, but the overall outline and purpose were already created. However, once he finished, his first words were, "Were you trying to kill yourself?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1295 First Meeting. Monk was not surprised by these words. He wanted to enter the battle taboo realm, and since that involved achieving paragon strength, he thought of using his clone ability. He would use countless resources to condense a paragon tier clone before condensing it into a giant heart to absorb. The idea is sound and foolproof. The giant heart should push Monk's strength to the level of paragon. However, after creating this technique, he realized his method was wrong. The final result of fusing with that heart will be his death through explosion. His body cannot bear the power/energy of that heart. He would need to open the gate of flesh to bear its power, but doing so would contradict his desire to enter the battle taboo realm. So, what do you think? Monk asked. You're missing the crux of entering the battle realm, Wang Wei said, thinking how to explain his thoughts best. From the Emperor to the Paragon realm, a cultivator will experience 3 extreme life transitions, each more potent than the other. The difference between the second, Empyrean, and third transition, Paragon, is exceptionally vast, and the process of entering the battle taboo realm is an attempt for a second transition life form to have the strength of a third transition life form. The process does not involve absorbing power or energy from the third transition but expanding the container of the second transition life form without experiencing the third transition. Expand the container? Monk muttered. But how to expand it? Simply training the body or the soul won't do much since those have limits. He paused as he suddenly thought of something. It seems you've figured it out, Wang Wei said. Existence. Exactly, Wang Wei nodded. What your technique needs is a way for you to add the giant attribute to your existence, and in the process, expand your container so that you can absorb the giant heart and acquire strength on par with a paragon. I see, Monk nodded. Now that he had a way forward, Monk had some confidence in finishing this technique. As a body refiner, it may appear that he knew nothing about existence, but that was far from the truth. After opening the gate of power, all true power Dao realm cultivators will have the characteristic, indestructible, added to their existence. In the process, they also gain some understanding of this thing. With this foundation, Monk now had a direction to work toward. Thank you very much. No problem, Wang Wei nodded. He could see that Monk was excited to explore this new idea, so he dismissed him. However, Wang Wei did not grant him any of his experiences of achieving taboo. It was not because the perfect foundation was too valuable. He could have separated some of the parts pertaining to Monk from that technique to share them with him. Wang Wei was also not jealous or fearful that Monk would grow more powerful than him. He did so only because he wanted to test the barbarian clan's foundation. The only way for Monk to complete this technique is to gain access to some deep and rare knowledge about existence, so he must contact his clan. Based on the result, Wang Wei will have a fairer analysis of this top lineage's ability and judge their values as a future ally. Wang Wei was confident he would achieve half-step Transcendent, meaning the Dao opening sect would become a Transcendent lineage. Eventually, he will have to judge his allies and enemies based on whether they can keep up with him or will be sidelined or, worse, become useless. Don't become too obsessed with this technique and forget to cultivate, Wang Wei warned the departing monk. The future leader of the barbarian clan had reached the 10th heaven of the adult fiend god realm, but his will-body fusion was only advanced and not perfected. Wang Wei did not want him to neglect his cultivation and be distracted. I want, Monk said from a distance. Time passed, and a week later, Wang Wei met with Wang Qi again. The negotiation with the professionals finally ended, and it was time for Wang Wei to sign the contract. He looked at the results and nodded. The overall conditions met and exceeded his expectations, except for the duration. 1,000 yuan epoch, Wang Wei muttered. I knew it would be little, but not so little. I tried my best, but these people were adamant about not being restricted for too long, Wang Qi said. Wang Wei pondered. You said they all wanted a few million years as a vacation before starting to work? Yes. Good, Wang Wei sneered. It'll change their fate to have bad luck during the vacation. They should then understand how cruel the world has become. Wouldn't that be too obvious? Wang Qi asked. You're underestimating me, Wang Wei replied. Things will happen inconspicuously and naturally since he'll be using his fate Dao. Plus, he won't do it to all of them so as not to raise eyebrows. On the contrary, he'll grant blessings to some of them. The ones with bad luck will realize the need for a towering tree to protect them, while the ones with good luck will be weary of suffering the same fate as their counterparts. That's fine, Wang Qi nodded. What about the people who refused to join? Not all the professionals agreed to work for them. In fact, a significant number of them wanted their freedom at all costs. Leave them be. Wang Wei will also give them the same treatment, but he won't do anything extra. His goal is to get these people to change their minds. If they don't, it won't affect him that much. Wang Wei signed the contract. Then, he held a banquet for these professionals, living up to his words of treating them with respect and dignity. Once that was done, Wang Wei was free since Red Mask was still organizing the documents. Wang Wei stood in his room, looking into the distance. Some things must be faced head-on, he muttered before drawing a talisman in the air that broke the void. He received a response a few minutes later, so he changed his clothes into a more regal purple and gold robe with a black crown that tied his hair and a white belt around his waist. Once he was ready, he created a portal before him and waited until he felt it was connected on the other side before walking through it. As he walked through the door, he saw a beautiful woman dressed in a simple white dress. There was nothing extravagant about this dress, not even any accessories except for a silver ring on her right index finger, but such simplicity perfectly matched her beauty. Her long black hair dripped down her back. The contrast with her white clothes made her appear as the embodiment of yin and yang. Wang Wei was momentarily lost in her eyes. Wu Hong had worn white dresses before, but her aura was completely different than now. It was hard for her to hide her domineering presence, so even when she chose an aesthetic of purity, there was always a subtle hint of power and nobility. However, today, Wang Wei saw her in the ultimate form of purity. "I wonder, who do you see?" Sun Junyao asked in her soft and angelic voice. Wang Wei finally woke up and honestly looked at her. "It seems this question is very important to you." "It is," Sun Junyao answered honestly. With this brief exchange, Wang Wei figured out plenty about what kind of person she was. So, he sighed and replied, "I'm afraid you'll be disappointed." Sun Junyao frowned. "You have someone else in your heart?" "I do." "That is indeed disappointing." She did not fall in love with Wang Wei at first sight. She'd been looking forward to their meeting because she hoped that the person fate chose as her partner might be able to see her true face. All her life, Sun Junyao has been a faceless woman, and she wished for nothing more than for that to change. "Come, have a seat, and let's have a proper chat," Sun Junyao said. She still had some hope that maybe he could still help her. She led Wang Wei to a pavilion nearby. Wang Wei recognized this place was similar to the one Xiao Tiandi invited him, with the lake, flowers, spirits, and rainbows. As they sat opposite each other with a table in between, Sun Junyao served tea. Wang Wei took a sip and said, "I don't want to have any misconceptions between us, so I want to make things clear. I come to break off the cause and effect between us." "Is that so?" Sun Junyao nodded, slightly surprised. In the past week, she used her terrible spy network to find people from the lower dimension and get as much information about Wang Wei as possible. As such, she knew he remained loyal to his wife despite achieving unprecedented power and status in the lower dimension. She calculated that this might be one of his reactions after meeting her, especially after knowing that Wang Wei's wife might be related to Empress Wu. Her surprise originated from the fact that he had no hesitation after seeing her. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1296 Perfect Match. "I appreciate your frankness," Sun Junyao answered. Cultivators on her level have a different perspective about fated love. Some embrace it, some are indifferent, and others find it disgusting. Sun Junyao was in the indifferent category. She only had expectations for Wang Wei because she thought he might be able to help with her situation. Wang Wei secretly sighed in relief. What he feared the most was she made a big deal out of this. He checked the fate connection between them, and as expected, he discovered it was not as unbreakable as before. But it seems this is not enough to cut it off completely, Wang Wei analyzed. He may need to get involved more with Sun Junyao before he can sever their connection. "Now that you are here, I'll take the opportunity to express my gratitude." Sun Junyao changed the topic. "I would have been in serious trouble had you not stopped 5 feathers." "Really?" I thought you would find my actions meddlesome. On the contrary, Sun Junyao stated. You may have saved my life. That's an exaggeration, Wang Wei replied. Something tells me you were prepared in case something like this happened. I was indeed prepared, Sun Junyao nodded. She used Wuhan's aura to make anyone who came weary. Such a play should have bought her some time to kill Blood Dragon. However, if that did not work, Sun Junyao was prepared to use her palace, a supreme chaos treasure, to resist and even run away into the source chi space. However, after seeing your battle, I realized how much I underestimated the power of a paragon, Sun Junyao added. She briefly observed their battle after killing Blood Dragon, and she was appalled by their display of strength. Additionally, she checked the aftermath after leaving the Dragon Palace. As such, Sun Junyao understood how difficult it would have been to fight off 5 feathers, especially if she were distracted trying to finish Blood Dragon as soon as possible. She could not tell the final outcome without Wang Wei's presence, but she knew the chances of things going sideways for her and the people of the palace were pretty high. I accept your gratitude, Wang Wei nodded. While on this topic, can I ask whether you've discovered Blood Dragon's Dao imprint? I have, Sun Junyao nodded. Why are you asking? If you don't mind, can we work together to deal with it as soon as possible, Wang Wei suggested. He was worried that the existence of the imprint would become a variable, so the best solution would be for them to work together and get rid of it as soon as possible. Sun Junyao mulled over this idea for a few seconds before agreeing. She also felt it would be better to deal with this imprint immediately. The last thing anyone in the world wanted would be for that stupid dragon to revive himself. She waved her hand to summon the Grand Dao Source, directing Wang Wei to a seal area with a unique rune. How do you want to do this? Sun Junyao asked. I have no experience dealing with a paragon's imprint, so let's just attack with all our strength and respond as things change, Wang Wei suggested. Sun Junyao found nothing wrong with this suggestion, so she immediately took action. Small bursts of red lightning flashed around their eyes as they activated their true will and bombarded the rune. They immediately encountered severe resistance. The imprint seemed alive, or at the very least, had a certain level of consciousness, so it fought back to protect itself. Paragon Dao imprint is different from Empyreans because it has a consciousness. Unlike Empyreans, who have to order their imprints to hide before their death, Paragon imprints will act on instinct and do it without instruction. However, such ability is the most basic of abilities. The Dao imprint is how regular paragons ensure their survival, so it became imperative that they developed ways to protect it. As such, there are plenty of Dao imprint techniques, including creating false Dao imprints to lure the enemy away, the imprint developing hiding and battle instincts, and even the ability of an imprint to attach itself to other lesser ones to camouflage and hide itself. Sun Zhenyo's way of getting the Blood Dragon's Dao imprint saved them a lot of trouble. Otherwise, it would have been a struggle for them to search for that imprint, but even with such an advantage, it was challenging for those two to eradicate it. Wang Wei and Sun Zhenyo's attacks were not as effective as they wanted it to be, so they decided to work together. They melded their true will into one to boost its potency. The process was so smooth and swimmingly that it felt unnatural. It was like they were the perfect match, two sides of a broken object that easily fit together. Their approach was the correct choice. Their combined power had a more significant effect but showed no signs of excitement. Too slow, Wang Wei said. This should be expected, Sun Junyao said calmly. We should succeed in about 1200 yuan epoch, and that's excellent timing. She was prepared to spend at least 10 times longer to deal with this imprint. Wang Wei shook his head. 1200 yuan epoch is enough time for unknown variables to pop up from this imprint. I understand that, but there is nothing we can do about this, unless we can find rare things like Source Erosion Water or Omega Karma Flame, Sun Junyao said before looking at him. Did you find any of these things in the Blood Dragon's treasury? No, Wang Wei replied. And even if he had such things, with how he fears for his life, I doubt he would keep them. A drop of Source Erosion Water can instantly erase the Dao imprint of a low-level paragon. Meanwhile, Omega Karma Flame can also directly burn the Dao imprint, and for peak paragons and boundless, it can drastically increase the speed of erasing it. That's true, Sun Junyao nodded. Anyway, let's focus, and maybe we can chip off a few yuan epochs in our time. Wang Wei disagreed with her, but he did not say anything. Instead, he summoned the River of Fate to use the technique he copied from Monk, Fate Will. Adding another will dramatically increase their speed, and Sun Junyao was surprised. Wang Wei frowned as he was still unsatisfied with this speed. Sun Junyao felt the change to their true will, and a brilliant light flashed deep in her eyes before she closed them. A few seconds later, countless chains of laws appeared around her, emanating the aura of different grand Dao sources. Then, numerous Dao wills emanated from these chains. They condensed into one before fusing with the true will. So, she can not only copy people's Dao but even their Dao will? My technique must have inspired her. She's a true talent, Wang Wei thought with a slight surprise. He could tell Sun Junyo's secondary Dao will was somewhat weak and illusory, indicating her technique was imperfect. However, it's understandable, given that it was created on the spot. After calming down, Wang Wei focused on the task at hand. It's down to about 550 yuan epoch, but I'm still unsatisfied. He wanted to reduce the scale to less than a yuan epoch. He pondered briefly before sending his mind to the Dragon Palace. Monk, Dulgun, Jiaping, and Flame, lend me your wills. Everyone else who has a Dao will artifact can also use it. His team was confused, but they did not ask many questions. They used their Dao will, true will, and willpower manifestation and sent it through the karmic line that Wang Wei established with them. The addition of these people significantly boosted the eradication process. Wang Wei's eyes lit up after seeing the speed for them to succeed. It was down to 120 yuan epoch, so he pondered who else he could ask. However, Sun Junyao immediately relieved his worry. She knew way more Eternals and Everlasting than him, so when she copied his method, hundreds of wills came from the void to provide aid. They soon reached their limit, and any more people would collapse their true will instead of augmenting it. Time passed, and the two spent 3 million years before the imprint dissipated. They could have finished sooner by at least 500,000 years, but Wang Wei was distracted as he kept observing the outside for any signs of sudden and drastic change. There were no visions between heaven and earth when the imprint disappeared. However, there were some slight changes to the world, and people of a certain cultivation noticed. After a few calculations, some people deduced that Blood Dragon had truly fallen. Many cultivators sighed after discovering this truth, lamenting the vicissitudes of life. Mortals pursue immortality, while immortals strive for eternity. However, even noble beings like boundless paragons have not achieved true eternity. So, what chances do they have? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1297 Deepening Karma. This was quite the experience, wasn't it? Sun Junyao sighed, her body relaxing as the tension dissipated. This experience was unique, not only because it was her first time attacking a Paragon's Dao imprint, but because of Wang Wei's presence. They were perfectly in sync, like two peas from the same pod. Sun Junyao understood why he was her fated lover, or maybe they fit so well because of that. Of course, her perfect harmony with Wang Wei was not the most memorable aspect of this experience. In the past 3 million years, she has made rapid progress regarding the application of true wills, and her understanding of Dao imprints reached a higher level. This experience will drastically reduce the time she needs to adapt to battles at the Paragon level. Indeed, Wang Wei replied. However, upon closer observation, Sun Junyao realized he was slightly distracted, and that's because Wang Wei had discovered something. His karmic connection with Sun Junyao had drastically increased in the past millions of years, and that somehow made it easier for him to cut off their fate line. What is this? Does fate want to entice me to deepen my relationship with her before deciding to cut off all connections? Does it think I won't be able to resist the temptation? Wang Wei wanted to roll his eyes but resisted the urge. Is everything all right? Sun Junyao asked. Sorry about that, I was lost in my thoughts, Wang Wei apologized. I can tell. Care to share what's on your mind? Nothing of importance, Wang Wei replied before looking at the teacups and set. Even after so long, they remained intact, including the tea. However, it was no longer hot, so he waved his hand to heat it. If you say so, Sun Junyao nodded. Since he did not want to talk about it, she would not insist. She sipped her hot tea. The ambience suddenly became awkward due to the silence. Sun Junyao could tell Wang Wei had this rejection against her. Although he tried to hide it, she noticed it. Well, he cultivates fate Dao and pursues absolute freedom, so, understandably, he would reject a fated companion, Sun Junyao thought. It's fine if he doesn't want to associate with me, but I still need to confirm whether he can help me. Now that I think about it, she said. I owe you more than one favor. Are you talking about Xiao Tiandi? If so, I don't think I did anything, Wang Wei replied. Without you giving him such a wake-up call, I doubt he would ever have the desire to change, Sun Junyao replied. She had been quite stressed about what to do with her disciple, trying countless methods to enlighten him. Luckily for her, old man Tianji gave a message that there might be an opportunity in the lower dimension, so she used all her connections to secure a spot for him. Maybe you're right, Wang Wei nodded. Sun Junyao frowned at his response. You seem guarded, she said. This is unlike you. And you presume to know me? No, but I know enough to know this is not how you normally behave, Sun Junyao responded calmly. Her words made Wang Wei ponder. She's right. There is no point in being reserved or alienating her. I don't need to be influenced by the events of my alternate self, nor care about what fate is planning, and I especially do not need to worry about how Wuhong would feel based on my relationship with her. In fact, I should act above board instead of being suspicious. My apology, Wang Wei said. It seems I've been overthinking a lot. I understand. After all, overthinking is one of the few foibles of the wise, Su Junyao. How about we play one civilization chess match? It's a great way to appease the mood and get to know each other. Good idea. Sun Junyao waved her hand, and the tea sets on the table disappeared. She then summoned her Grand Mist Chi to create a transparent cube on the table. This was not an ordinary cube but one that contained an entire universe with vast lands, forests, mountains, oceans, and stars. Ladies first, Wang Wei said, and Sun Junyao did not act courteously with him. She pondered for a few seconds before choosing the fiend god race. With a thought, she created countless members of this race. To be precise, she made 129,600 of them. They were tall, mighty, primarily humanoid, and the heavens and earth cheered for their sheer existence. Starting with the most powerful race, huh? That's an interesting choice, Wang Wei commented. In that case, I'll choose the weakest race? Wang Wei chose the human race. However, he did not choose randomly. Instead, he created 129,608 humans, born from heaven and earth and in harmony with the Tao. They were not born strong but with supreme talents. Meanwhile, the rest, with a population of 1 billion, were regular and acquired humans. That's a smart move, Sun Junyao thought. According to the rules, the human race can have a starting population of 10 billion. Wang Wei sacrificed most of that to give birth to these innate humans with unparalleled talent. Sun Junyao looked at her fiend gods. They had all become eggs floating in this world's version of primordial chaos. She was not surprised by this sudden transformation. According to the rules, since she chose a race with such a high starting place and Wang Wei chose the opposite, she must abide by several restrictions, one of which was the small population and the fact her creatures must start from being born from primordial chaos. She looked at one of the eggs, who was technically the first creature ever born in this world. Sun Junyo's next move was based on that. She used that status as the firstborn to accelerate the birth of that egg. Cracks appeared on the egg, but it was not born yet. For his second move, Wang Wei created a living environment for the human race. The innate humans can survive by absorbing the spiritual qi between heaven and earth, but the others cannot. The creature, previously a regular tiger, was now a demon. The tiger called itself the demon race and started to gather other animals, awaken their wisdom, and conquer them. Suddenly, the human race had another competitor in this world. Using blood and war to train the human race? This approach is cruel but effective, Sun Junyao thought. For a brief moment, she considered sending Pan to the human race area to eliminate them. However, Sun Junyao knew this was an unwise move since, with Pan's current strength, it would take him more than 10,000 years to reach his destination. By then, who knows how powerful the human race will be? Instead, Sun Junyao influenced Pan to leave his birth area and explore this new world. She activated his luck, and as expected, the first fiend god discovered countless rare spiritual herbs, especially the transformation lotus. Meanwhile, the human race continued to develop. Fuzi continued to build his training method, giving birth to warriors with divine abilities like controlling flames or flying in the sky. However, internal problems manifested in the human race due to the lack of an enemy. The primary cause is the inequality between warriors and ordinary people, especially the strict control of training methods. Xing started a plan of separation, expansion, and merit to deal with the situation. The warriors became nobles of the human race and lived in the inner area. Regular people lived in the middle, while pioneers lived in the outer region. Pioneers' job was to explore areas outside the human race's domain and create new tribes. The pioneers were given basic training methods, and if they had sufficient accomplishments, they could gain access to real training methods and become nobles. Sun Junyao looked at the human situation. She could tell with a glance the flaw of this pioneer system. It can take a few generations of development before a pioneer has enough achievements to receive the training method and become a noble. Most pioneers did not live long to see that day, so they relied on their descendants to fulfill their wishes. Normally, such a flawed system could be exploited. She only needs to influence someone in the human race to rise and cause internal problems. However, she saw that Wang Wei was already prepared to fix this flaw. He is methodical and thinks hundreds of steps ahead, Sun Junyao analyzed. The moment I chose Fiend God as my starting race, he had a plan to maximize the rules and restrictions placed on me. I should have taken this game more seriously. She understood that her chances of winning were not looking good with how the human race was developing. However, she would not give up so easily. After all, the game had just started. Although she was having a bad start, it didn't mean it was over. Instead, Sun Junyao influenced Pan to leave his birth area and explore this new world. The second change they decided on was to mobilize 90% of the nobles and move them to the frontier to stop the demon race's advancements. Unfortunately for these two, their decisions received immediate resistance. The nobles were fine with spreading the training method to the pioneers since they needed people to fight this war, but they insisted that the best training methods should be kept for themselves. They also disagreed with training anyone from the middle area. If these people wanted power, they could only go to the frontier. As for their mobilization to participate in this war, they refused. They were nobles, and not just because of their strength. Many were innate humans or descendants of them, so how could they put themselves in danger? After living such a long life of pleasure and luxury, these people were not warriors but people with strength. The situation was tense, and the human race was about to collapse internally. However, something happened that none of these nobles anticipated. The two titans became ruthless and slaughtered anyone who resisted the two orders. It did not matter who it was, even their fellow innate humans. They killed anyone who resisted. Fuzi was, without a doubt, the strongest warrior of the human race. Meanwhile, Xing was in the top 10 in terms of strength and held the most political power. With these two working together, the nobles had no choice but to obey and head for the frontier. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. After Sun Junyao threw a temper tantrum for the next month, his parents had no choice but to act. Grand visions accompanied Sun Junyao's birth, alerting many influential people who wanted to accept her as a disciple or who had other ulterior motives. Her parents had no choice but to contact one of these people to check on her, but they could not even see anything. Ultimately, Sun Junyao had to accept that no one but she could see her empty face, and from that day on, she hated any reflective surfaces, including clear water. As Sun Junyao looked into the mirror, she saw it. A vague outline that could not be deciphered entirely. She was immediately excited and focused, but the outline remained illusory and vague no matter what she tried. She calmed down and exhaled before dispersing the mirror. She stood up, cupped her hands, and bowed 90 degrees to Wang Wei. "Thank you, fellow Daoist, for pointing the way." "No problem," Wang Wei nodded. She accepted the bow but did not take it as seriously as her. He was sure some people close to her must have said something similar. However, helping someone heal their Dao heart or state of mind sometimes requires the right person to say the correct thing at the appropriate time. Sun Junyao has put a lot of faith in the destined one to help her with her situation, so those words meant a lot coming from Wang Wei than someone else. Sun Junyao felt relaxed after sitting down. Although the flaw in her Dao heart was not completely dealt with, she now saw a way forward. She only needs to focus on finding herself. One day, she'll have her face. As Wang Wei said, the fact might be the most common one in the world, but that does not matter since it is hers. Once she perfects her Dao heart, her future will be bright, Wang Wei thought. After Sun Junyao solves her problem, she'll be able to see her perfection as an advantage instead of a curse. With her information network, it won't take long to learn or deduce that the path of perfection involves transcendence, so she might start preparing for that. Should I find a way to exchange the perfection foundation with her? Wang Wei thought. He loves talent, and because of that, he was momentarily tempted not to sever the connection with her. After all, her chances of becoming half-step transcendent are genuinely high since she's a being with such a high affinity with perfection. The perfect foundation would further increase that possibility. Moreover, Wang Wei looked at the connection between them. After helping enlighten her, their karma connection was more profound, and he took a significant step in being able to cut off their fate connection. If he handed her the perfect foundation, Wang Wei knew he would meet the requirement. No, there is no need to use such a valuable thing to deepen karma, Wang Wei thought. He could take his time and was confident he could resist whatever temptations fate could throw at him.